Oh, I finished quicker than I thought. I need to work on that one. That caught me out. Oh, hold on, John. Before we start, welcome.
Hello, it's
Perfect
GoldenagedGeek.
timing.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. I just got off watching a Star Trek episode. I'm going to be watching the motion picture for the first time tonight, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my God!
Yes,
What the first time?
for the
Oh
first time.
my
Yeah.
God!
Imagine the joyness that will bring. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So,
I just watched the new upgraded 4K a few days ago.
oh, it's
The
such a
Star
film.
Trek the motion picture.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a film which is very dear to my heart.
Mm,
Because it actually caught me. It caught me up with the magic more than Star Wars.
yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I've got a confession here.
Go on then.
6-year-old me fell asleep during Star Wars.
Oh dear.
The sandy bit all got a bit dull,
All
and
right.
I kind of woke up when there was some lasers shooting again later. Yeah, but Star Trek the motion picture for some reason held me spellbound, even though it is a notoriously dull film in terms of its pace is slow. Its pace is slow.
Yeah, it's
But if
so
you
much.
get the vibe of it, and well, I don't want to spoil or anything for Golden
No,
Age Geek. So we'll just have to talk about this another time. But when
yeah.
we've seen that movie, we must have a chat about it because it
Oh
means
God,
a lot to me
absolutely.
and
Oh,
Dean. Yeah.
oh, I
And
love it.
Dean.
I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Absolutely
But
massive Star Trek fan.
Star Trek the motion picture fan is
Oh, yeah.
especially as opposed to the Star Trek Arthur Khan fan, which is a little bit of a different flavour, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but they're two separate films. But
They
any
are,
case,
they are.
shall we?
But back to what we were supposed to be doing. You
So,
totally. We just we were off
oh,
on it.
we're reminiscing about Star Trek now. Screw Doctor Who. Let's just carry on talking about the motion. Because you could talk for that for absolutely hours. It is
But
one of
having said that, things like Picard season 3 are things that people should be talking about because Star Trek's actually pulling some serious quality out of its backside again.
ready.
Whether it will totally pan out, some say it will, some say it won't. But I'm enjoying the ride at the moment.
Get ready, John, because look who's here. Hello,
Oh,
Jack.
it's Jack too. Right, fantastic. Hello, Jack.
Hello, mate.
Everyone.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We haven't actually done anything. We've just been talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
We've just been geeking out over it. And also, hello, Sadako. Hello, JWC
Yeah,
Reviews.
hi everyone.
Guys.
Hi everyone. I did type it in the
Right,
thing.
we better try and get serious, haven't we? What were we here about? Oh, Doctor Who Series 2. Yes, it's 2006, everybody.
Yes, and we're into a new Doctor.
We are completely new Doctor. Yeah, so just before we start, I'll briefly update on the pancreas cancer side of things. I had an interesting experience this week because right now my wee is strictly speaking nuclear waste.
Awesome.
And I've been warned I have to stay away from pregnant women.
Oh well,
which is not too difficult, but if I whittled on a toilet seat or something, and a lady who was pregnant sat down on that whittle, they could get poisoning from cobalt isotopes because I had my cobalt dye test this week. So the NHS spent some money on me. It's not cheap, this radioactive dye. But I also had to spend 2 hours under an MRI scanner, unable to move at all. And if I'd have cocked it up, it would start again from the beginning. So that was an experience. And my hot tip was I took my blindfold because it was a lot easier to relax without being able to see the camera go up and down as you're moved up and down in front of it. Because you get very close to the you're like 4 inches your nose to the plate, close. And a lot of people find that hard to cope with. So just put the blindfold on. It made it a lot easier just to relax, stay completely still. And the second thing I did was I focused on the radio, and each song that completed, I was another 3 or 4 minutes towards getting out of there because 120 minutes was quite a slog. And yeah, everything itches. Your nose itches, your back of your neck itches, your shoulder itches, your armpit itches, your balls itch, but you can't do anything about it at all.
Oh, that's torture.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I can tell you is that there's other things to do with cancer treatment that are a lot less pleasant.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, at least I was able to walk out of there and go home.
Yeah.
But that was a big experience this week. Was the cobalt dye scan, and I'm keeping going okay. I mean, I would say I have to be honest with people and say that I do have reason to be reminded that I'm very ill.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Gobby before we started, the hardest thing about this is body wasting, because not only am I very thin, but there's some parts of me which are now no longer normal, and they won't be normal again, and I miss them. So that's one of the hard things of going through this, but keeping on the road, and I continue to be maintaining pretty stable and the pain's under control, so just keep going forward, and after 3 months they'll be able to tell me if this hormone treatment is having the impact they hope it is. So that's the update. And so I continue to say to everybody that if you've got any concerns about any symptoms you might have, don't sit on them, and don't let your doctors fob you off. And do check out information on pancreaticcancer.co.uk, which is my chosen charity I'm supporting.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Onwards, everyone. Onwards. I don't want to talk about that stuff more than I have to, but I want to let you guys know how I'm doing.
Good. Excellent. So that's good news, mate. We'll keep our fingers crossed. And shall we move to a Christmas time when we were introduced to our new doctor for the first time? To the Christmas invasion, I think.
Just the sheer magic.
Absolutely.
Doctor Who on Christmas Day, and this was the first time. So let's give this all suitable credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Christmas invasion started as an addition, but we're now over the moon about it. Looks like it's coming back because we've missed our Christmas Doctor Who's very much.
Absolutely.
And this was the first one. So come on, guys. Let's start with Jack. Jack.
Yes.
Christmas invasion. Go.
Well, the earliest memory I have of it is that scene where the Sycorax comes on the screen for the first time in the sort of TV transmission and sort of growls at the screen. And I remember my 6-year-old self sat there going, "Is that a dinosaur?" And that my mom said, "No, that's an alien." And this was a very important story because this was when I decided that I wasn't just going to watch Doctor Who for the Daleks.
Nice.
Because they were all I were interested in. If it didn't have a Dalek, I weren't interested. But this story really kind of made me go, "Wow, they're cool!" Like, especially where they have those whips that turn people into bones. That was
that's
cool.
awesome.
It's gruesome, but it's cool.
And
I just have very fond memories of this story. But here's the thing: I don't know if it's because I was too young, but I always remember the Doctor as being David Tennant, never Eccleston, even though I technically started with Eccleston. I must have just mentally put David Tennant in his place.
Yeah.
So,
memories can certainly do that, especially memories from when you're very young. So pick your own reality, absolutely. But I mean, if you weren't really paying attention to Eccleston when you were 5, quite easy to replace him with David.
Well, no, because I was so mesmerised by the Dalek, I think.
Yeah, the Dalek was the focus of your attention, and quite rightly so, because it was glorious.
It was glorious. It was glorious.
But no, this is a very important story for me. I suppose you could say it started my proper Doctor Who journey, and it's one that I look back on very fondly.
Oh, excellent.
I reckon there might be high scores coming.
I've got this funny feeling, mate.
I'm an avid defender of Series 2.
So let's go for Golden Age Geek. How did you approach Christmas Invasion for the first time?
Well, of course, I started watching Doctor Who at Series 1 with Christopher Eccleston. So this episode was it was very impactful because when you get invested so much into a doctor, and then that doctor goes and someone else takes over, you're very unsure about what the future of the show is going to entail, because this, for me, Christopher Eccleston was my doctor up to this point, so I wasn't sure whether David Tennant was going to be good or not. I thought, is this the end of the show here? And, you know, I may not watch anymore. But this episode was very pivotal in ensuring that I was going to watch the show for years and years to come. And I think that the episode, it certainly picks up the pace later on in the second half, but people seem to overlook the first half, which I don't really think is that fair, because it is very character-based, because, again, with the soap opera element of Russell's era, we are Rose, and we are reacting the same way that Rose would about, we think we know this guy. There is still a lot of mystery there, but we think we've got an understanding about who exactly he is, and then bang, he's changed. He's a different person now. And I think a lot of people at the time would have been thinking the exact same things that Rose was thinking and feeling. So to see that,
well, I mean, it's a lovely piece of writing, and we'll discuss that a little bit more depth in a moment. But I just want to say on the David Tennant front, I had no worries or concerns about David Tennant at all, and I was busy working, so I wasn't spending all my days paying attention to what fans were saying on fan forums. You know, I could see that Tennant was a fantastic actor. I actually watched Casablanca, so I knew who he was at the time it was announced. So, oh, bloody hell, he'll be great. You know, I was immediately thought this is going to be fantastic. But then when I saw the costume announced cover on Doctor Who magazine, I don't know, it would have been 2 or 3 months before Christmas Invasion aired. And I saw the look that they were going for with the pinstripe suit and the trainers and the hair and the coat. It just looked fabulous. You know, it just looked fabulous. It was a very Britpop kind of image. It made me think of Blur.
Yeah, very blurry.
Blur, you know. But, well, yeah, all that 90s stuff. So I mean, I loved it, and I also, because I knew, you know, as what was I, 35 or so at the time, as I knew, you know, that straight away that Eccleston was leaving the part. I knew there'd be a regeneration. I knew there'd be a new Doctor. I knew, you know, Tennant was announced. But like, they're going to pick this guy. He's going to be good. And I was right. I was right to have confidence that Russell T Davies knew what he was doing. So, I mean, let's talk about the story itself. You brilliantly put your finger on the middle of what makes this story work, I think, GoldenagedGeek, which is the first half. Because the audience is anxious. And so is Rose's family. So are Mickey and Jackie and Rose.
Yep.
What's going on with the Doctor? Is he all right? Is he gonna be okay? Is he gonna recover? Is this the same man? You know, just how weird is this? And at the same time, the world is coming under very real threat.
Yep, absolutely.
And people are getting scared, and the tension's going up. And, you know, half the planet's on the bleeding roof, or at least all of them with one particular blood type. What was it, O negative or something?
No, it was it was the rarest ones. It was AB positive or something, or A positive.
Right, okay. So good chunk of the world's on the roof.
Good chunk of the world was standing on the roof, yeah.
And you know, the human race is looking outmatched, you know, and we need the Doctor. And then, you know, as the story unfolds from this period of sort of regeneration, recuperation, what could be more Doctor Who than being revived by the sweet scent of a cup of tea?
Quintessentially English. Quintessentially English.
Well, the tannin molecules infused for blah 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 blah. You know. Yeah. So I mean, very much this is a character story, and it's about introducing. It's about the character of how the people who know the Doctor cope with having lost the Doctor they knew, and their fear about who the new Doctor is going to be, while at the same time they are so desperate because they so desperately need him. And then he comes forth, he steps forth, but then also this is an unpredictable Doctor. Yep. I mean, who would have predicted if you went, what's going to happen in the plot of Christmas Invasion? Well, the new Doctor is going to get in a sword fight straight away and lose his hand.
Yep.
No one.
No one. You know,
exactly no one would have predicted that. So there's a wonderful unpredictability about the way that the 10th Doctor's character emerges through his actions as he starts to explore and understand himself, sort of stomping around that Sycorax's ship and, just popping their bubble, which he does so marvelously. Blood control! I haven't seen that in ages.
Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Even quoting the Lion King, which I thought was brilliant, especially when he realised he was actually quoting the Lion King. It was brilliant.
It was absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
the Lion King. Sorry, I was distracted. Absolutely brilliant.
I mean, the plot is relatively straightforward, but I mean, the Christmas tree smashing the room up stuff is fantastic.
That's brilliant. That was brilliant.
And Noel Clarke has to cope with this damn thing. I mean, absolutely homicidal. He's feeding it a chair and it's still coming at him. He solved that scene well.
Yeah.
But then after the Doctor emerges, we also get another aspect of his story which fandom continually talks about. Especially in these more politicized times.
Yes,
because it's that simple message. Doesn't she look tired?
Doesn't she look tired?
Is that it?
That's it. The 6 words. Doesn't she look tired?
No,
don't you think she looks tired?
Don't you think she looks tired?
Looks tired, and that's all he whispers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that also added to the character of the Doctor. The idea that the Doctor was such an extraordinary awareness of the fabric of the universe. But just a few little words in the right little ear, and he can make anything happen. And I always find when we're shown that aspect of the power of a Doctor, I always find it vaguely terrifying.
Yeah.
Because the idea of somebody with that much power should be terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And
the only thing that makes the Doctor okay is because we know he's got the ethics to not abuse that power. Although, of course, later on in Tennant's run, that is going to be something which gets explored.
That is going to be a bit of an issue.
In terms of how we were all discovering the character on Christmas Day 2006, 2005, wasn't it? This very, very pertinent. We're all learning together. But at the end of it, we're all left with one fantastic impression, which is there's a new Doctor Who. He's arrived, and it's awesome.
It was brilliant.
And then we also get the flashes of the first 6 stories coming up. We go like, wow, cool, awesome, cool, wow.
Absolutely.
Werewolves, clockwork robots, Cybermen, and we all go, wow. So, I mean, this was an enormous success, both with the audience and with fandom. I mean, this couldn't have gone better. It made Christmas Day.
Oh, God, yeah, it did.
But not just for geeks like us, but ordinary families suddenly had this fantastic, for them, effectively new show where they could all sit down together, and it felt like a tradition from the very start because it felt good to have something that brought the family together at tea time on Christmas.
Well, it did indeed. And
in exactly the way that the murders and horribleness of EastEnders does not.
Well, yes.
I mean, calling that a Christmas episode. I mean, I've only ever suffered a Christmas EastEnders once or twice, but I know they're bad. But Doctor Who, that's part of what makes the show even better, because it was so much better than anything else that was on. It was so much more affirming, so much life affirming, so much more humane, so much more celebratory of the best of being a human being is to be a hero like the Doctor, or to be a companion who can travel with the Doctor, and we get to join them on their adventures. I mean, this is just why the program is so damn good.
I mean, for me, it was amazing because this was the very first and the only Doctor that my wife will actually watch. She doesn't like Doctor Who, but when she saw David Tennant on the Christmas Invasion, that was it. She was hooked. So that says something. If you can, I mean, we all know why, but yeah. So for me, it was something very interesting because finally my wife started to show a remote interest in a TV program that I actually liked, which was quite impressive. Quite impressive indeed.
Well, I have to say, watching series 2, it's a bit shocking just how young he looks.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we forget with time, but now we're used to how Tennant looks today, and he's coming back to our screens in November. You know, it's a bit stunning, really, to have a realization. This was 18 years ago.
18 years ago, Jesus. Oh God, I'm starting to feel old again. Oh dear me.
And this is something that, I mean, you discover as a Doctor Who fan, because I mean, we were watching this at the age of 6, like you know, like the guys here were. You know,
Yeah.
our whole notion of time. You know, my notion of time around Genesis of the Daleks and the Planet of the Spiders is totally different. You know, the time just seemed to stretch forever, and years went on forever and ever.
Yeah.
You know, and it took an age to ever grow up.
Yeah.
You know, I remember just how long growing up seemed to take. But then, you know, I was in my mid-30s when this was first shown. I'm in my early 50s now.
Yeah.
And 18 years just seems like a blink.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, when we were kids, listen to us two old men rattling away.
I know, but I mean, this is part of what holds us in nostalgia of the things that really made a difference to us and that we really enjoyed when we were younger. Whether it's season 2 of Doctor Who, or Star Trek the Motion Picture in the movie pictures in 1979.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
You know, this is part of why we're fans. This is part of why we love stuff, and this is part of why we love Doctor Who, because it does root us in the times of our lives. It does root us in our memories.
It certainly
does. I can't think of these episodes not think about where I was living, what was happening in my life at the time. You know, so I mean, it's all roots you into the life that you've lived. Doctor Who is a milestone on the years along the way, and you know, I've found that for the years of my life. I don't know if you guys will find that for the years of yours. You know, as you become older, and you know, and then you know, maybe when it comes to season 14, you know, you'll be doing live streams in 20 years talking about Nakuti's first barnstorming first year of a show became a massive success like never before. And you'll be doing live streams about that. And you'll be going 20 years. My God, was it? It seems like yesterday.
God, 20 years.
And I'm so happy for you that you've got all that excitement of that adventure ahead.
Yeah.
So, you know, the show's going to be there for you, because you know, I love the show and I love what it does for people, and I love to think that people are going to be getting that from the show going forward. Sorry, totally off on a tangent. I feel I've gone here, because we really should get back to the actual launch of Series 2. You know,
reminiscing on our old days.
Yeah, and sorry, it's a wool gathering night tonight, but. Look, we've done this. We'd said hello to the Doctor. We better do some damn scores, George Dawes, hadn't we? Jack, Christmas Invasion.
Hello, Jack.
Is he there?
He's sorry. I was just playing a video game.
That's okay. Yeah,
that's what reminiscing gets us, Gobby. He's playing goddamn video game.
Sorry, I was bored.
It's like watching classic at 50% increased speed, isn't it? Jesus.
Any case, Jack, what do you think of the score?
At least you are honest, Jack.
Yeah,
honest.
I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Oh,
8 out of 10. That's a B.
Well, no, that would
B plus.
No,
yeah, B plus.
B plus, yeah, B plus.
Right, okay. We like letters here.
Yes,
we're letterers.
Right, can I go back now? I'm on the final boss fight.
Oh yeah,
so
to be inconvenience, mate.
Don't let us fogies. Golden Age Geek.
I would say a high B, just below A. I think it is very good, but I don't think it has that oomph that some of the other episodes may have.
Well, I think the good news of that is it meant that, you know, this was a solid first performance, which we had a lot of ground to build. So yeah. Matt Pounder puts it in A minus.
Minus, fair enough. I'd give it an A minus as well, because I really enjoyed it.
I think I include to pick it up to an A, but I think a B is perfectly fine.
That's fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think a B is a happy letter we can all agree on. It is a B at least, but yeah, I think I'd A minus it, because
John gives it 9 out of 10. John gives it 9 out of 10, and Sadako gives it a D plus. There you go.
Sadako was less impressed.
Less impressed, clearly less impressed, but that's fine. That's cool. That's what we're all here to do. It shows how
I'll pop a question
caring
back
we
to
are.
Sadako. Many is I'm tired of the domestics by now. There you go. He didn't like all the council estate stuff. That's fair enough.
But there you go.
Yeah, I
Fair
know
enough.
a lot of people felt that it actually was
Yes,
a
they did.
millstone around the show's neck. I mean, it worked for the time it worked.
Yeah.
But the show never really did that again to the same level after
No.
series 2.
No.
So this is probably the most domestic season.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's funny is that in series 1, Eccleston takes the piss out of the notion. He says, "Don't you dare make this place domestic."
Well, there you go.
And then that's exactly what happens.
And that's exactly what
happens. Yeah.
Just like in season 1, Eccleston cringes at the idea that them having a romance is even a thing. And then in series 2, it happens. So he kind of deserved that slap eventually.
Well,
yes.
I mean, I hate to tell you, dude, but you're going to be going to prison for underage because you're like almost 1,000 years and she's 19 and immature and really annoying. She's a terrible excuse for a woman because of what she does to Mickey. In fact, she's the kind of girl I'd actively avoid. But I only know that now grown up. As a kid, I loved her.
The series 2 romance arc is obviously something we're going to have to talk about. Probably better to talk about a bit later on.
Yeah.
But we're obviously going to have some interesting opinions about that. I tend to agree that I'm never comfortable thinking of a Doctor having any kind of physical relationship with a mortal human being. It does feel abusive to me. I've never been comfortable with it. I'm not against the Doctor falling in love, but it needs to be a being that can, in some ways, approach him as an equal, which I did feel that River Soul did, by the way.
Romana.
But the romance was off the screen, not on it, per se.
Yes, indeed it was.
In fact, if the romance got decidedly frosty on screen, it would be. I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. Not looking at you. Not looking at you. Was it really a romance or was it actually a tragedy? Questions we can perhaps discuss later in the show. But for now, we've got to get on because we've got a brand new Earth to visit.
A brand new Earth, indeed. A brand new Earth.
And so we're off. Here we are. Series 2 started January 2006, and straight away we're greeted to some enhanced BBC special effects, so some whizzing cars and things, and we're off on this journey. And it's that lady who's all just skin who's back.
Yes,
and stuff. Yes. So what did you guys make of New Earth?
Who's going first?
Jack, you can go first because obviously there may be a new level you'll need to do on your game. So,
look, I'm sorry.
While we've got your attention,
you've got a whole series to get through. And I'm not good at speaking. I'm pretty much finished in a couple of seconds.
Well, come on, man.
These few seconds are yours.
Get your gun out of the way.
Okay, well, I mean, Susan from My Family is back, so that's great.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And the effects on the diseased people are really disgusting, even to this day.
Yeah, agreed.
I like the premise of a new Earth, and I have to say the CGI doesn't look bad in this episode like it does in others, especially the shot of the hospital.
Yep, I agree with that.
Probably because that was a model, but it's still pretty decent. I know people give it slack because it was probably a bad way to start the series, and I agree. In fact, it's probably one of the worst in the series, but it's better than anything Chibnall and most of Moffat has put out, so I still kind of like it.
There you go.
Yeah, word. I mean, the last statement is just categorically true. And what about you, GoldenagedGeek? How did this one come across for you?
This episode is a weird one, I would say, because it very much gives me the same feelings as The End of the World. And in some ways, that was the point of it. It is kind of a sequel to The End of the World. I do think Russell was still trying to keep the audience from Series 1 engaged and still trying to reaffirm the idea that this is still the same show. You're still going to have the goofiness, the wackiness, and the comedy of it. And the comedy is, ramped up maybe a bit too much in this episode, as... I'm sure talk about. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad one. I think it does show the more sort of whimsical side of the Doctor, because this series, by the end of it, it does go into some very dark places. So I do think it did show a variety of David Tennant's Doctor.
Mm.
Well, it's an entertainment episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't designed to take you to the emotional depths. It is light-hearted. It's fairly easy viewing. But it's what we might call it a fun romp. At least that's the idea that it's going for. I mean, some bits really do stick out. I mean, you effectively got Billie Piper fondling her own body approvingly. As part of this, and that side of it, that sort of having to unzip her collar and stuff. I mean, we're playing up the sexuality, the sexualness of it, to have fun with that. And it made it engaging. But I mean, ultimately, it's a completely missable story. I don't think it adds anything.
Not really. It was, to me, it was the comedy was a little bit too much, I think, in this episode. I understand why they were trying to go for it, but it was a little bit too much. But I saw this as a padding episode. It was all right, I suppose. It wasn't the greatest thing.
Well, it was another piece of world building, because Russell's establishing 50,000 AD as a point in time, isn't he? So he's continuing what he started with the first one. So it was building on that, and of course, we would come back to New Earth again the following series.
I was just going to say it leads on to one of my favourites. So.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
It's a stepping stone on the way. But as an episode, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's especially rewatchable. I think I couldn't go better than a C.
I'd give it C- personally, but that's just. I thought the humour was starting to run away with it a little bit, so a C- from me. GoldenagedGeek, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. A C. There are moments, but overall, if you're making a judgment on the episode as a whole, a C.
Yeah. How about you, Jack?
C-, worst of the whole series.
There you go.
And it's still a C-.
Did we get that right? Is Jack's declaring that New Earth is worse than Fear Her?
Yes, I am, and you're going to have lots of fun laughing at me when we get there.
No, that's absolutely fine. Feather Crow's give it a D-. Matthew has given it a C+. John has given it 6 out of 10, mediocre and unexciting.
We're all very much of a
we're all the same
C-ish area of this one. Yeah. And I think it's one of those episodes where it helps where you've seen the season trailer and you knew the Sidemen were going to come up before halfway. So you didn't really care too much. You're off. Okay, that was fun. There was a bit of banter, it made me laugh a bit. Onwards. And we went onwards, straight away, into Tough and Claw.
Tough and Claw. Scotland, 1879, if I remember quite rightly. Where we, the Torchwood Estate.
I'll start on this one. I found this a thoroughly strange episode. I think I've never really rated it over highly as an episode. I don't find monster chases per se that interesting. Like if I watch Alien, I find the first half of Alien so much more interesting than the second half.
Right,
because just like chased around corridors is not the most exciting thing Doctor Who does, and this was quite chasey around corridors,
running around up and down.
And it was just a strange concept, really, to put Doctor Who and Queen Victoria and a werewolf together. And it was certainly a tour de force of a special effects department.
Yeah, with the werewolf.
And they did get a lot of praise for that werewolf at the time. I don't know if it stands. It doesn't really stand up at all compared to today's CGI.
Well, no, obviously not.
but what I found odd was the tone, really, because it started off with these kung fu monks, but then never really had anything to do with it afterwards, and
Yeah, they
that
were
was
there
just
and then they
odd.
weren't. Mm,
Yeah, so it wasn't an even production,
no.
and had maybe sort of a bit of new season jitters going on with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And a finding your feet episode.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't have a great deal of praise to lavish on it. What about you guys?
Golden
Jack,
Age.
what do
Jack.
you
Yeah,
think
let's
of
go
Big
Jack first.
Tooth
Go
and
on, Jack.
Claw?
Tooth and Claw.
I think it's a wonderful slice of gothic horror. Feels very, if Philip Hinchcliffe era was modern day. It's werewolf in Doctor Who. It's cool, even though it's a mythical creature. They're still able to make it sciencey, which is quite cool.
Yeah,
Transformation's very good. I actually think it's really good for the low budget.
yeah,
And
absolutely agree with that.
I love the creepy contact lenses that make his eyes really black. It's a really good scene. Rose is actually not annoying in this story. Queen Victoria really is a bit of a can't say on the stream because it'll get it taken down. But yeah,
Yeah.
the bald guys are really cool, if not a bit over the top. But yeah, I love the isolation. This ancient house in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
It's very boxed in. It's very claustrophobic, and
Oh,
I actually
it's a
quite
good
like.
bottle show, isn't it? Yeah, bottled in like a good.
I do quite like monsters, because I'm a child inside. Monsters are what made Doctor Who cool, and I think this is a great monster story.
Yeah.
I did like the walls coated to repel werewolves. I did like that. That was quite cool.
Yeah.
I found part of your comment there fascinating because it's a Philip Hinchcliffe gothic horror. How would this have been better if the werewolf had been a physical costume?
Oh.
Could it have been? Because I'm just thinking, getting that sort of spooky brain and Morbius kind of ooky, creepy vibe, and it wasn't about having the slickest, fastest, most CGI-ish werewolf. It was developing that tension in the scene.
I think it could have been. I think if this had been a classic story, I think Tom Baker's amazing performance would have carried the story, especially when it's all hide in the library and figure out what to do next. I think even if it was a giant furry rat from Talons just
Tom
running
Baker
around the house,
would have ate that up. You're absolutely right.
I still think it would have been great. I get very horror of Fang Rock vibes from it. It's very claustrophobic. It's a good sort of mystery story at first, the first half, and then it does turn into a bit of a monster chase. But I think, Classic Who could have pulled it off and still made it cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
I think the big difference is if Classic Who had done this story, it would have done it over twice the time.
Yeah, perhaps made it drag out a bit.
You could put it as drag out, but you could also put it as build tension. So I mean, if you want to talk about horror of Fang Rock, I think I maybe suffered a bit from being jaded in my mid-30s, having seen much better werewolf films.
Well, yeah.
Whereas if I'd been really young and I hadn't seen The Howling or other stuff, so it just didn't really light my fire that much. So for me, I've just never really felt it that much strongly as an episode. But I am interested to see that JWC Reviews really enjoys it, and it is a base under siege of the Fantastic Alien.
Of course it is.
I mean, it definitely delivers for the audience. It maybe just wasn't quite what I wanted.
No,
wasn't quite the right flavour for me. But not everything's about me. So for me, I mean, it's another C for me.
How about let's get GoldenagedGeek's opinion on the thing?
Let the guys get their input in, but that's basically where I'm at with it.
Fair enough. So crack on.
So I agree with John's point that the build up to it in the first half is done very good, but then when it gets into the sort of the big chase around the house, it can feel a little bit cartoonish. I think I do like the tension, especially when the people are locked inside with the monk and it eventually transforms into the werewolf. I thought that was very well done. And
that is before the opening credits, even, isn't it? That's right at the start of the story.
I'm sure midway through the episode you have Rose
Yeah.
and the other people.
Oh,
of the
you do.
house.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right. You're not the
Oh, yeah.
initial sting, but the midway point. Yeah. You're
Midway.
But I
right.
also like how when they are trapped in that very enclosed room, that they have to rely more on their intelligence. The Doctor has to think of very creative ways to destroy this enemy. It isn't a simple, crafting some sort of weapon or technology. I love how the focus is put on the conversation and how they're having to put their wits together to try and overcome this enemy. I like that aspect of it. But yeah, overall, I'd say a high B. I'd say a B plus.
B plus. Yeah. And Jack, what was your score?
What's your score, Jack?
Well, I didn't criticize it nearly as much as Golden Geek, but I'd still have to give it a B plus. Yeah, about the same.
Give it some more welly if you need to say more about it, Jack.
No,
do it.
because there's better than this.
It's better than this to talk about because I think you're right. Yeah, I think
It's
you're right,
just pretty
especially about
solid.
this series.
Yeah.
It's quite clear. Russell's been taking his notes. He's been listening to feedback. He's been learning the lessons, and now it's time.
Of course, you've got the classic Who fanatics in the comments just giving it minuses and hates, which of course we should be used to it,
Well, actually, we've got. Let's just run it through. Matthews give it a C. Salico's giving it a C plus. Time Profit, there's no surprise there.
Of course, yeah.
I think that's who Jack was talking about.
JWC,
Oh no, also Lee as well. He's always
Eight out of 10.
He gets off his computer game and now it's baiting the chat. It's not going to go well.
And Lee's give it a C minus. I'll give it a solid B. Lee loves that. He's found out.
Yeah, and it's on the stronger side for JWC reviews, and that's great. It's a story that works for him, and that's all part of why we love it.
I'll give it a B minus myself.
You give it a B minus.
Yeah, I certainly do. So there you go.
But I've done this segue, but yeah, his school reunion, of course, is next up, and I do think, without any doubt, this is when this series first arrives.
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
It has the most miscast actor in the show. He should have been the Master.
Oh,
Anthony Head, are we talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see where
he
you're
could have been
from.
the Doctor at one point, I think. Surely he must have been in consideration at some
great
point.
Voice.
Yeah, I love Anthony Head. Brilliant actor, absolutely brilliant actor.
I mean, he must have been in the consideration to bring the show back in the 90s. He must have been on the list.
Yeah, he must have been. He must have been because he is.
He wouldn't have been a very humorous Doctor. He'd have been serious all the time.
He wouldn't be a humorous Doctor at all. I don't think he'd have been a funny Doctor, but again, Lee agrees. I think he would have made an absolutely amazing Master because it's that kind of thing. It's his kind of.
Oh, it's giving me chills just to think about the idea.
Thinking about it. Oh yeah, but of course we also have the fact that this brings back Sarah Jane.
Well, this is a big hit of nostalgia right in the arm, isn't it?
God, absolutely.
But at least it was for you and me, Gobby. But for Jack and Golden Age Geek, who's his Sarah Jane bird?
Well, this is true.
So
I remember my mom and dad saying, "Oh, she was on when we were growing up."
No,
so you at least somebody give you that bit of information to give it the context.
Interesting. What about you, Golden Age Geek? Did you know who Sarah Jane was?
No, I had no clue who she was, and at this time, way back when I started watching this, I had no clue that there were any there were that classic Who even existed. So
yeah,
I was totally out of the picture.
Yeah, so it should be a bit weird to for all the interaction with the Doctor.
But the question that immediately begs then is that for younger you, when you did watch this, did you care about Sarah Jane by the end of it?
I can't remember.
I mean, but that would be the test, wouldn't it, of whether the character had successfully transitioned.
But I liked her.
Yeah.
From a kid, I just remember her being with K9. That was really, and when I heard that she got her own show, I was over the moon.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's massively positive reaction, obviously.
Yeah, massively.
But I mean, the story itself, we've got the Doctor doing what the Doctor does. And him and Rose are investigating these the strange academic results, aren't they?
Just slightly.
And Rose is making the chips, and they think they're zeroing in on it being the oil. But then completely coincidentally, Sarah Jane is also doing what Sarah Jane has done for years and years and years, ever since she stopped traveling with the Doctor, and she's being her own investigator.
Yep.
So the two paths cross, and it's a moment of destiny. And the Doctor comes out of the hiding and pretending to be this human John Smith. Although and then they recognise each other, and then it's dealing with that. And I don't think it's just probably, but a couple of people have said that Rose was tough going in this episode, because it is it's that competition anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And these two women working out how they relate to each other and how they both relate to the Doctor. And also Rose working out how, realizing that the Doctor really is so old that he's just walked right on and just walked on by people and left people behind, and how that makes her feel about the feelings that she's trying to rationalize that she has. So there's a lot in there. I mean, there's a lot of character stuff that continues to play out over the course of the season.
Yep.
Especially for Rose. And it brought Elizabeth Sladen right back into the Doctor Who family in a way that was most welcome. And of course, we would see her again later in David Tennant's run. And also, the Tin Dog.
The Tin Dog was back.
Yeah, and and Mickey had to come to terms with how he actually fitted in with the TARDIS crew.
Yeah.
So it's growth for Noel Clarke's character too.
Yeah, it is.
And that was the Tin Dog I was referring to in that one. But because it's actually realizing I need to become something. Mickey's realizing that he needs to become something more.
Yep.
But how people are seeing him, how the Doctor and Rose are seeing him, is not how he sees himself, and it gives him that touch of ambition. But we then see develop over the next story as well. So it's the start of a big arc for Mickey in this story, and I like that about it a great deal. So I mean, the killer trains are fun. Shape-shifting winged aliens, what's not to like? So they were memorable. They worked really well. I mean, I think the story overall came out quite strongly, but let's see if you guys disagree. I mean, because I've given 2 C's so far. This one, to me, but it's probably the nostalgia working on me because of how I relate to the Sarah Jane character, probably was always going to be a B. But what do you guys make of it? Jack? Or Golden Age Geek, whichever one of you wants to go for it.
This episode is definitely one of the best, not only of this series, but of the entire show. I really do like it. And I do think with season 2, you want to expand on the show. You're going to have to, you can't deny the existence of the classic episodes forever. So Russell did, weave the characters in, like Sarah Jane, from that very well. There are lots of key moments in this episode which I just absolutely love. The one that always springs to mind, and that there are many, is when the Doctor and the Krillitane, a guy played by Anthony Head, are in the swimming pool room, and they have a big standoff. And he threatens the children, and he's gonna destroy them. And the Doctor just says, "I am very old now, and I used to have so much mercy, but no longer." And that just gives you chills. You really do see the darkness of this Doctor.
Yeah, it's indeed.
So it's giving him a bit more underbite. So it's not all just fun and games like it was in New Earth. It's bringing that dark side out. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could start to see the glimmers of the darkness in this one. Very enjoyable. Sorry, I had to disappear. I had a parcel delivered, so I had to go answer the door. It happens.
Well, what do you have to say about School Reunion, Gobby?
I enjoyed it because it was Sarah Jane, it was K9. I really did enjoy Anthony Head, as his character was just absolutely terrifying in a very subtle way. Yes. Very, very subtle way.
Great
the menace, the performance of and the menace that he was portraying was absolutely fantastic. I just really enjoyed it because it was a trip down memory lane. Let's be honest, for a lot of us old Doctor Who fans, it was very much a memory lane rundown, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story. I really did like it.
Problem being has just said something I think is very fair. He said C for the story, A minus for Sarah Jane and K9, and Sarah Jane reacting to see the TARDIS.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Absolutely. And also Archer Colin, that bit in the basement, so emotional, powerful between the Doctor and Sarah, and then snap into typical Who humour.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, it was a great showcase for the tone of the tone of the series Bible. Because this was very much the tone of series 2 is represented here.
Yeah,
very well.
yeah, it was a good story. It was an enjoyable, as it says, John just says exactly right. A fun romp full of member berries. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I think I'm settling on a B here. GoldenagedGeek, are you going to an A or is it a B for you? I know you like it.
I would say, I'd probably say A plus.
A plus. So we're strongly favoured there. And Jack, are you with us?
He may not be here. He's had to nip off to have some dinner, but he'll give us.
Oh, okay. Well, Jack will catch up when he's noshed off. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we've got things rolling nicely, haven't we, with series 2?
Yes.
And so we've had a story which is obviously really, really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
But then the amazing happened.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely.
Because you thought this series was getting good, and then we get a story which is legend to this day.
Absolutely.
We get the story which is constantly being one of the first spoken about to praise Doctor Who in the new era.
Oh, absolutely.
We get a story where we have the privilege of being friends with the actress who did so much to bring the central character to life.
Absolutely.
That being, of course, the girl in the fireplace.
Absolutely. Oh, one of my favourite episodes. Well, this, John. You know how much I love this episode.
It's a category all of its own. This episode is a live stream all of its own.
It is. It is.
Because it's not just the story, it's the impact it's had.
Yeah.
And the impact it had on what was to be the future of the show, because this is where Stephen Moffat really does cement his place.
Oh, yeah.
He'd earned high praise in series 1, but the girl in the fireplace was just instant BAFTA material.
It's just,
as indeed did prove to be the case. So let's talk about it. Guys, tell us about the story. Jack's having his dinner, so he's got to be
We'll go with GoldenEye.
Tell me what you made of it, mate.
Well, so we're talking about the girl in the fireplace.
Yes,
we are. Girl in the fireplace. Yes.
So with School Reunion, like that is when I thought, oh, this is going to be the highlight of the season. But then we get to this episode, which is equally, if not maybe better than that. This is just a what's the correct metaphor for it? It's very much a punch in the stomach. It very much lifts you up and then takes you right back down again, but in a good way, not in a way that makes you despise the episode, but in a way that you understand the Doctor and his loss. This episode was very good because you have the Doctor, who is a very secluded character. Well, what we see in New Who anyway, he's a very secluded character. Although he is traveling with people again, he is still closed off from them. And that one scene in School Reunion does help to elevate this episode a lot more, when he has that conversation with Rose in the car park, when he says, you can spend the rest of your life with me, but I can't with you. And it very shows that, he's made this connection with Antoinette, and even though he feels very deeply for her, it's a tragedy from the start, because it's never going to work out. And you see the Doctor finding someone else who has that same yearning for adventure that he does. He's going to take her along. They're going to have brilliant time together. But then, of course, she's human. you know, unfortunately she passes, and you just see the Doctor, all that hope they had built up in him, just fade away in a second. And I have to give props to Moffat. He did it very well.
It is, well, it's one hell of a story. It really is. It's as I said, I mean, I've had the privilege of speaking to Sophia Miles, and it's the story just, it's the one that sticks. It's one of those episodes that just sticks in my mind, because it's so beautifully written, it's so beautifully acted. The sets, even though it's really just, you know, a couple of rooms, really, it's just brilliant. It's just, it's the one I could watch over and over again because it's just so good. And the clockwork, repair robots for all intents and purposes, and then to have the little stinger, they can't understand why they went for, you know, Madame Pompadour, and it's because that's the name of the ship. Was just, it was just, it was a sublime piece of writing, and yeah, this is the best episode. Really, really was. But you know,
I mean, it's Moffat on his absolute creative high.
oh,
And
absolutely.
look, I remember having a conversation with Sophia about Girl in the Fireplace, you know, and I was just putting across to her just why this story is so beloved by Doctor Who fans.
Yeah,
You know, because I mean, she knows very well that she's very well remembered for her part in this story, and you know, it's just good fortune to have landed a really good script.
yeah,
You know, that she was able to then bring so much out of. You know, it's every actor's dream to have material this good. So you know, it very much, you know, benefit the luck to be in the right place at the right time to be part of this. But I mean, Matthew found a great comment. Lovely magical episode, just not sure it's Doctor Who. You know, a lot of people would say that about Moffat's whole approach to the show.
yeah.
Especially when he ultimately became showrunner, you know, because he does like to play more into the fantasy than the sci-fi.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a fairy tale fantasy theme to this, you know. But then whenever you get misbegot lovers who fate keeps apart, you know, that is a quintessential fairy tale story.
Yeah. It is.
You know, so that's not surprising, really. But by bringing in those elements, it's tapping into that world. And but what really raises this story above so many others is it's got so much to tell us about the Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot you learn.
And what it shows us about the Doctor breaks our hearts.
Yeah, it does.
Just as it breaks his.
Yeah.
Just as it breaks hers.
Yeah.
And we're all just left in a sobbing mess, or just knowing that we've been treated to a fantastic, great bit of television, and our emotions have been played like a harp.
Absolutely.
You know, so what writer could aspire for a better result?
No, it was just perfect. And then I don't know if anyone, most people probably are aware that during the lockdown, Stephen Moffat wrote one of those lockdown specials. Did you hear it? Where she did it like, and that letter that she was reading out was just absolutely beautiful. It was just a stunning piece of televisual excitement.
Well, I mean, at the heart of it, it's an incredibly pure and powerful story idea.
Yeah.
Everything else flows from that, and you know, the effectiveness of the robots, the art deco, the decorativeness of the robots, the clockwork nature of them, and it tied them to the French royalty kind of period, but you can imagine, which is fitted so well into the environment of Versailles. You know, as well as fitting well as a weird future ship, and of course the name of the ship at the end explained why they looked, you know, why were they dressed like 17th century French noblemen? What was going on? You know, so it all came together in a beautiful package. and then drove a horse through a magic mirror. So I mean, ultimately, yes, it is Doctor Who. But I definitely don't think every episode could be like this. And
No.
I think that's also something the show has to know. But it's just a magical story at a magical time. We had a magical impact. Anybody else want to add to this? I mean, there's no point messing about. It's an A+. Just it's an A+.
Yeah, it's A+ for me as well.
But GoldenagedGeek, anything you want to add?
No, I'd definitely say A+ as well. I think it's very deserving of that ranking.
Right, Jack is still noshing.
Yeah, as he said.
Well,
yeah.
I'm afraid he's missed it because we've got no time here. It's all happening because now is the time. The rise of the Cybermen.
Cybermen, they're back. They're back. Ooh, and are they back? Even though I'm
leading into the Age of Steel.
Yeah, just let you know. Problem Being gave it an A. Sadiko gave it a C. Matthew Pounder gave it an A+. So on the whole, we're in it's the upper echelon.
There's not many fans who are going to give Girl in the Fireplace a low mark.
No.
Even Time Prophet can't
gave it a
B. Yeah.
Well, there you go, and that's saying something.
That really is. Yeah.
That says it all.
Yeah.
That says it all. Yeah. So we're off to the rise of the Cybermen, and the introduction of that. This is where I have a problem with the Cybermen because we started to get the stompy noise when they were walking. I didn't like that at all. No.
Yeah.
And
the stompy is a down mark. I agree.
Yeah. Miranda gives it a B. So there you go. And welcome.
Is that a B for Girl in the Fireplace, Miranda?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Well,
that's good.
let's talk about this one. Well, let's start with GoldenagedGeek. You've never seen a Cyberman before. Well, maybe you remember the head from the museum in Dalek. You probably do remember that head. So you had a little bit of an idea that there was a thing called a Cyberman that had handles for ears. But how did you find this story? I mean, let's deal with it as two parts per se.
Yeah, let's do it as two parts.
I mean, I think it's actually one of the more contiguous two-parters the story the show's ever made. It does flow together well as two parts.
Yes.
But this episode had a lot of elements that I usually really like in science fiction. I mean, nowadays the concept is overused like too much, but the idea of parallel worlds has always intrigued me, especially when I was very younger. So when we immediately kick off this episode with that very intrigued me. But also because I had seen some other classic British shows beforehand. When the episode starts, I was thinking, wait, that's Trigger from Only Fools.
Of course. Yeah, that's exactly what you'd think.
Well, I've got to disagree with that. It certainly was Trigger.
Yeah. Oh god.
But yeah. In general, I absolutely I love this episode. I think the reveals that happen, the character development, and how this episode very does relate to where we are currently with technology being implemented in every aspect of our lives, and how people are literally glued to their screens. They're literally being controlled by the technology they use. And if there isn't that human interaction, then we're kind of screwed, because that is what makes us human. It's the human interaction face to face. That's sort of,
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Wow, there's a lot to unpick actually here, isn't there? Because I mean, to start off with parallel worlds, I mean, we've had a few comments here already. I mean, Sadako, as parallel universe stories go, it does pale in comparison to Inferno, which is a very different kind of story to Inferno. I wouldn't say it does the parallel world in any way worse. I mean, I think it shows this alternative world really well. It makes it a bit obvious visual difference with the Zeppelins everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's letting you know that this is a world which is like ours but different, and of course the ear pods, without which the story would unfold very differently.
Just sorry to break in, but Jack's actually back now. So
Jack is back. Jack, you've missed a bit. We're just starting Age of Steel. Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel.
Love that one.
Ah, there you go. He loves it.
He
There
loves
you go.
this. What he says, right?
He loves it. Awesome.
But where I was saying, you know, I think it represents itself as a parallel world well, but also I think what's really clever about the story is a way that the parallel world gives a temporary reset on the character development.
Yeah.
Because suddenly there's Pete, he's alive, large of life, and the temptation to go find her dad just overrides everything else to do with Rose. The Doctor is then put in this compromised position.
Yep.
Because he literally can't watch both Mickey and Rose at the same time. But also, Mickey is standing up for himself.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the tin dog anymore. He's going to do what he wants to do. And, you know, as he rightly says to the Doctor, it was always going to be her, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so I really think this is the story where Mickey Smith really comes into his own as a character. I love the performance of Noel Clarke in this story. I find it ever so watchable. You know, and later on, there's the Mickey and the Ricky, and he makes the most of that, and he really sells it really well. I've always feel that, you know, when I'm watching it, I am looking at two different people who are just very similar. I don't feel I'm looking at a camera trick. Performance sells it to me.
Except there is a shot where you can see the other actor filling in for him in the background quite clearly.
Well, that's a production. That's a production.
Yes, production mess up that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lee's just asking, and before we go any further, what is Jack's thoughts on the girl in the fireplace? Because
I suppose we'd better find out now. Jack, quick detour. Girl in the fireplace. Go.
Well, school reunion, because I didn't get to say what I thought about that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You give him an inch, right? This is young people today, right? Now he wants to go 2 stories back. Yeah. He's had his dinner.
Yes, but
he's played his game. He's doing all right.
Yes, but I
Go on, Jack.
do it relatively quick. Don't worry. So.
Yeah.
Go on then, mate. Crack on.
I really, really like School Reunion. I love the music. I love the creatures. I even love that one of the creatures is grey when he's a black fella. So there's kind of different races in the Krillitanes, which I thought was a nice, funny little thing. I really like K9. You know, there was the story that made a whole nother generation fall in love with the character. So it was really cool. And just a great story. I thought Girl in the Fireplace was really, really good. I like the clockwork droids when they have the masks on. I think they look a bit silly without them. Like they're just made of glass and cogs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you throw a stone at them, you've pretty much won.
Yep.
And I like it. It's a very emotional story and like really, really good. The School Reunion I'd give 8 out of 10. Girl in the Fireplace, I'd have to give it a 7, but a good 7. So I suppose that's a B.
That's only a B.
A B and a C plus.
C plus, around about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to talk about Rise of the Cybermen, just while I have the chance
What did you make of this episode?
Really, really great premise. The best Cyberman story in New Who, which is quite sad, you know, that it hasn't been topped in more than 10 years. You know, it's like that just should tell you everything you need to know right there. I actually like the Cyberman design, and I know that's going to annoy Time Prophet, but I'm sorry, I grew up with them. I really like them. A lot of people say there's not enough organic, but these are believable cyborgs because they don't look like they're just a bunch of guys wearing jumpsuits. Although the 80s Cybermen are my personal favorite designs. But I really love that you can see the cyber controller's brain. I think that's really organic. And they even open one up to show you there's flesh in there. So
I have to second that. You can't beat a good visible brain.
No, it's brilliant. I love it so much.
Very, very good.
And I love the music. I've always loved the Cyberman's theme tune. I just think they've got such a presence in this story that they never quite had in any other. I didn't like what they did with them in the finale. When we get onto that, I'll explain more into that. But I think in this story, they steal the show. You know, they're absolutely brilliant. And I think the Cyber Controller's bloody great. I like him when he's John Lumick. I love him even more when he's the Cyber Controller. So, yeah, I really, really like it.
Well, I really want to come in with some points here because I agree with Jack. I think this is the best Cyberman story in New Who.
Yeah.
But I think I can answer the question as to why. Because I think the problem Doctor Who has with the Cybermen is that they are at heart a horror concept, not a science fiction concept. They're a horror concept first. That's why they're monsters. And the horror potential of the Cybermen has always far exceeded what the show can show. And I think what gave the show the chance to go that little bit further with them in this was that it was a parallel world story. And I think when you reflect on the double horror of everyone getting brainwashed by their earpods, and B, people just being marched into their skulls sawed open and their brains stuck into robot bodies, it is horrific. And it's also horrific the way that the story shows that effectively happening at scale, irreversibly, to thousands of ordinary people in London.
I think the great scene.
But I think it could do it because it's a parallel Earth story. Whereas, I mean, I know Doctor Who's never entirely supposed to be happening in the real world, but you know, when you know that it's not the world that you care about, it allows the show to go a bit further while not exceeding the boundaries of what it could get away with. You know, so it allowed the story. It's very difficult to set up a Cyberman story that allows them to do that, and you know, they just haven't been well served, and you know, they've been even more eroded by being used continually as butt of the week. You know, and Moffat did this as well. I mean, he did it at the start of When a Good Man Goes to War. You know, but he used the Cybermen just as some idiots to be blown up, just to give the story a little bit of a boost. You know, and then that's what, you know, Chibnall's use of the Cybermen was just absolutely diabolical on every level. You know, so neither Moffat or Chibnall really showed they had a grasp on the Cybermen like Russell did here. The design, look, I mean, the flary arms and flary legs, I think, you know, sort of we're trying to go for a sort of more Art Deco kind of Cybermen. The logo, I think, was a very clever touch. I think that was really good way of sort of tying them into the idea of mass automation, you know, and marketing and branding and corporatism. I thought that worked really well, actually. The stompiness was just an unfortunate choice. You know, I mean, it was a way of doing them differently at the time, but I don't think they should have ever made them so over the top stompy.
No, it was RoboCop stompy, wasn't it? It's that kind of I need to know that these things are big and heavy and robotic by making them make really stompy noises when they didn't really need to do it. Good, just slightly took the edge off it for me. To be fair, that's, you know, it's one of those things.
I kind of liked it.
I mean, every to their own.
It gave them presence, but it's just the trouble is they kind of lost that presence when they went up against the Daleks.
Yeah, I see what you're coming from. Yeah,
with the Daleks, there's a kind of elegance, the way they glide across the floor. It's death coming towards you. But with the Cybermen, they're all stomping and they're just getting the shit kicked out of them. It's not a good
look. Sorry, guys. I've just got to mention. There's just been an inferno level burn has taken place in the comments.
I was just about to say. Oh dear me.
Oh dear, I can only caution people against absolutist statements. You know, because they generally can come and backfire at you. Because Time Prophet, bless him, opined that parallel worlds are always used by bad writers. Sadako
responded, no, only the MCU.
Since when was Don Houghton a bad writer? Type Prophet says, I've got no idea who Don Houghton was.
He just wants to find any excuse.
He wrote Inferno and Mind of Evil, and I'm going like, oh god, that's a face off. But never mind.
And Lee's going, fight.
Thank you, boys, for this. I mean, I enjoyed for fighting the comments there. That was an Inferno level burn. Oh dear. I'm sorry, Type Prophet, you walked into that.
Awesome. Oh well,
okay. We're struggling to stay on track with these Sidemen. The Jackie Tyler, the alternative Jackie, alternative Pete side of the story as well.
Mm. Yeah.
And the Pete as what was that code name he was using? Nighthawk or something, wasn't it?
No, yes. Oh, what was it now?
Krypton 9.
Krypton 9, that's it, yeah. Krypton,
Okay.
yeah.
And then there was Mrs. Mills, and getting to know her, and then the tragedy of her loss, and then the tragedy of Sally Phelan, getting ready, unlucky to see you the night before, and then the ear pods kicked in, and the whole evening went south, Sally. But also a good, fun ending. Well done, Mickey. Save the planet.
Yep.
Yeah,
Save
and so spot marks there, and it ends up. I was feeling more like a James Bond ending than anything else. We have the entire factory blowing up and climbing the rope ladder and the cyber controller coming after him. It's a wonderful ending.
This is what made RTD's era so good, that Moffat just never seemed to grasp. It's almost like with Moffat, it was all like, oh, look at all this geeky stuff happening. Look at all this. Look at this. It's like, what can be more fun than a factory blowing up?
Exactly.
Simple things like that. It's entertainment at the end of the day. And I'm sorry, but I don't think everything has to have like Godfather levels of writing to be good.
No,
and it's like whenever people compare them, they're just like, oh, Classic Who's better written, Classic Who's this, and that. It's just like New Who, well, the RTD era anyway, is fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes you just want a bit of bloody fun in your life.
Absolutely, I'm into that, brother.
Like just nothing. It's just criticism. Like everyone's a critic, and they think they're smart just because you can criticize something. It's like no.
Absolutely, mate.
Well, I mean, I just had to let that out. On this point,
it's all right, mate.
I've always recognised that New Who and Classic Who are different beasts made for different times.
Yeah,
as much as I miss what New Who didn't take from Classic, I also recognise what New Who brought to the table that Classic never had. And the sheer excitement that New Who could pump up in the audience, because it was a different style of television. I mean, and with Murray Gold working on the show as well, just gave it so many great moments. And I think that some of the best of the early ones are in Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel. Also, great Part 1 cliffhanger. I mean, we're just the Cybermen on the rise. So I mean, problem being is, to be fair, Classic Who is better written, waits for the outrage. Well, I think it was I think like a lot of things, I think being a writer was very different in the age of New Who. And I think the attitude to writing, the attitude to television writing, the need to get it, whatever else you were doing, getting it done quick. There's no way that New Who should be written the same way as Classic Who, because it shouldn't be having to deal with some of the frankly stupidly artificial constraints the way the BBC made television imposed on Classic Who.
Exactly.
But where I do miss it is where the stories have to rush, and I will admit that partly I feel more comfortable going back to Classic Who than New Who for rewatches is that I find New Who is a bit too frenetic at times. It's a bit too in your face, and I can't. New Who is too stimulating. It doesn't let you chill the same way that Classic Who does.
But again, it's two things.
So we've had comparisons between Inferno and Rise of the Cybermen, tonight, because they're both parallel world stories. I love them both.
Yep.
And I love them both for different reasons. But I'd certainly put Rise of the Cybermen on at a time when I'm in a different mood for what to watch when I'd put Inferno on. And they both have their place. That's how I approach them. It's
like when we had the discussion with Ian. When we had go on.
Sadako's just reminded me that I'm an absolute plum, because look what we forgot to talk about, Gobby.
Oh yes, indeed.
Sadako, also, while I'm loath to bring up the Timeless Children, I did say it did. I must say it did feel significant here when Tennant's doctor gave it 20 years of life energy. That meant something when he wasn't immortal. Wow, stakes. Yes, how true.
Yeah.
Stakes. How true.
Yep.
But me and Gobby have actually got an announcement
We
on
have
the whole
indeed.
topic of the timeless children.
Oh, here we go.
Because we have. I meant to do this at the start, but we'll do it now because
It's been brought up, so why not?
Yeah, it's
Why
been
not?
brought up. So, as I mentioned before, me and Gobby have got ideas for other kinds of streams. And there will come a point where we would have worked our way all the way through Classic Who. All the way New Who. So, what are we going to do about the Chibnall era? Because I don't consider it the same program.
No,
neither does Gobby, I think.
No.
So it's next to impossible for me to make a stream about why I love Chibnall Who.
How about why you hate it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I don't, but at the same time, I don't want to make a stream about why I hate Chibnall Who, and neither do I want us to carry on going through New Who and then have 3 real bummers of an episode where we just slag the show off on.
Yeah.
I don't feel there's a need for us to do that. So the question is, how can we approach the question of tackling what the timeless children means to us as fans without it being that? We find a different way to do it, and that's what we've come up with. Because not next week, not a week after, maybe not a week after that, if we do a separate stream for the 4.5 season. But we are planning, and we already have our first guest confirmed. We're planning a special stream, how to fix the timeless children.
There'll be a challenge. How about that for a challenge?
Because I've been putting my head into this over the last couple of years, and I have my own suggested fix, which I will be putting forward. But also a space for others to come forward with their fixes, because I'd like us to be able to show as a live stream community who loves Doctor Who. I'd like us to be able to show just how much we would have to offer of how this actually could have been done in a way that worked and that was good for the show, possibly,
possibly, maybe.
But at least had the chance to be nothing like the disaster that it was. So we're going to do one stream on this, and we do the one episode, and we'll see how you guys like it. I mean, Sadako says feels a bit of a falls endeavor. So, I'm not sure that I want to do a how to fix Series 11, how to fix Series 12, how to fix Series 14. No. I think that's probably much more work than the material justifies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we will do one on the timeless children, and we're going to do it between Tennant and Smith. So that we've got more positive stuff to come afterwards, so we're not doing it at the end.
Yeah, because we don't want
we don't want it to be a smelly fart at the end, basically. So we've got that planned in for 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks time. So now you all know. But if you are interested, and if you do have a reasonably substantial amount of thoughts on how it could have been done differently, and that you could actually articulate into sort of action plan, if you like, and you want to take part, I'd love to hear your version. Get multiple versions of this in, and I hope that you guys like what I've cooked up, because I don't think you'll have seen what I'm coming from, and I'd like, just for once, to have a chance to share some of my story ideas with my creative writing hat on.
Why not?
Which also normally I wouldn't necessarily splash all over the internet, because I wouldn't want to give stuff away for free. But we could do a one-off. So we've got that. We've got that coming up. Right, we better sum up these Cybermen. I really like the story, and I do think it's second to World Enough in Time. I think it's the best Cybermen story in New Who. So I'm going to come out with a flat A, not an A plus, but a flat A. For both of them together. Jack, what do you make of it? What would you rate it?
I'd give it the same as you, John. I'd give it an A.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an all-time classic for New Who.
GoldenagedGeek?
Yeah, same here. A. I think it is. I think it is an episode that will be remembered for years and years to come.
Gobby, any reason that it shouldn't be an A?
No. I agree an A, but Matthew says a B plus.
And Lee says a B, yeah.
Fine. and the ending was too saccharine, which I could kind of get, but I mean, the thing is, when it comes to this, new Who, classic Who sort of thing, they are. When we were talking, remember when we were talking to Ian, and he was talking about the fact that it should all be sort of lumped together. I don't think, in some respects, it shouldn't, because it's things for two completely different eras to two completely different audiences. Modern day audiences haven't got the attention span, that older audiences have. So I don't really ever put them together. I see them as two
I will
separate
say,
entities.
I understand why people who grew up back then don't like this show, and I might be saying the same thing about RTD's new era. It just isn't for me, because
Yeah.
we all have different ways we feel about things. But for me personally, my Doctor Who is this series 1 to 4 and the specials, RTD's era. But I'm a fan of classic Who as well. I love both shows, and I like to put them together in my own way. But I'm not. I understand the argument, and I don't want anyone to think I was having a go at you earlier. I always have a bit of over the top humor in the way I say things just to make it funny. But classic Who fanatics, we can just never agree. But I'm not disagreeing with any of the points they're saying. I'm just saying I like the RTD era as well, and I try not to compare them together because they're both brilliant in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All very fair. All very fair
absolutely
comments.
right. Bang on. Absolutely bang on.
The season is smashing it, isn't it? We're 6 episodes in, and we've got this fantastic high point. Everyone's agreeing it's an A or a B.
Yep.
So series 2 is just damn well delivering, and now we're getting into the second half, which we're less aware of what's coming up because we haven't had that the same teaser, and we have a very individual episode, I would say, the Idiot's Lantern.
I
absolutely
really like it.
Yeah, the Idiot's Lantern. It's all right.
It's a very good historical. Well, I don't want to say historic. Well, I suppose it is. Yeah,
No, it is historical.
I
It's
actually
absolutely
watched
historical.
it. I actually watched it when it was the Queen's Jubilee. I thought this is the perfect episode to watch.
Absolutely.
I point out it's made in the 21st century, but it's set in the middle of the 20th century. It's definitely historical.
Okay, so it's just when I think of historicals, I think of Aztecs, Romans, So I suppose
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It is. It's not that long
It's
ago.
history now.
Well, it's not. It wasn't that big. It wasn't that big a time gap between Black Orchid and the 80s.
Yeah.
It was only a bit more.
Yeah.
So definitely historical.
Just before I go any further, do you need to go now, Jack? Or
Yeah, I have to head. So do you want me to give like a full rest of series review?
You might. Well, you might as well. Go on.
No, but yes.
No, it's up to John.
But yes,
it's up
but no,
to John.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's up to John.
If you want to do just for scores, but we need to push along properly, so we don't want a 10-minute diversion, Jack.
No, he won't. He'll just fire off the scores.
Okay, so the Idiots.
Go on.
Okay, so The Idiot's Lantern, 7 out of 10. I have to try and remember all the episodes now. The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, 10 out of 10. It's the best base under siege story in all of New Who. Gabriel Wolf is fantastic as the Beast, and the Uda are some of my favourite monsters ever. It's absolutely brilliant. I can't find fault with it, and anyone who does will be shot at dawn. So, Love and Monsters, underrated but very cringeworthy. Not going to lie, very cringeworthy, but still quite funny as well. So 7 out of 10. What's
Fear
next?
Her.
Fear Her. Okay, this is where the comment explodes. I find it to be watchable in a fun way. It takes me back and makes me feel like a kid again. Is it Doctor Who? No.
Okay.
It's not Doctor Who. But Tennant, where he puts his fingers in the marmalade jar and Rose goes, is probably the most stitch-inducing laughter I've ever had in the history of television. So, fight me.
Okay, Army of Ghost Doomsday.
Okay, so 6 out of 10 for Fear Her. Sorry, guys.
Okay,
Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, the worst finale in the RTD era, but still a bit of fun. So I'll give it a very generous 7, but it is the worst. I think Daleks and Cyber
7, but you might prefer 5, really.
Was a stupid idea, and I think they knew that in Classic Who. That's why they didn't do it.
Finish up.
And I just wish the Daleks had been held off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And finish up Runaway Bride.
Oh well, technically that's a part of series 3.
That's not series 2.
Okay.
But you don't have to have a view on it if you don't want to.
All right, I'll give it a... So, yeah, Runaway Bride, a great Christmas special. Just as good as the Christmas Invasion. I'd give that a solid 8 out of 10. Love Donna in this one. She's not as annoying as she could be in Series 4 at times. Love the Rachnos. Love the 10th Doctor in this one especially. Just really, really great. This series is great, and anyone who says that Series 9 is better than this series should just leave now. So, this is absolutely brilliant series, despite the problems that it has. And the only problem I have is, unfortunately, Rose. But I loved Rose as a kid, and I loved meeting Billy Piper. It was great. But as I've grown up and I've kind of realized women can be horrible at times, I kind of don't.
Can be true. Yeah.
I kind of don't like Rose anymore because she just seems to be a stuck-up little princess who uses and abuses Mickey, which is why I appreciate that Mickey goes on to be an absolute badass later on in the show. And I'm like, dude, you rose above this abusive bitch. Well done.
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry.
Jersey show. It's a way forward for male self-respect. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I'd give Series 2 a very solid and well-deserved 7.8 out of 10. Not quite an 8 because unfortunately the bad areas are pretty bad. It's the weakest of Russell's 4 seasons, but it's still good, and I'd happily watch it compared to 80% of most other things on television. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jack. Yeah,
Thanks for coming on, Jack.
We will catch you next time. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You're very welcome.
It's been brilliant, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, mate. Bye.
So idiots lantern. The 3 of us, yes. Well, kick us off, Golden Age Geek. How did you find this story?
I really like this story, and I've heard a lot of discussions in forums, that sort of thing. This episode is, not particularly loved by a lot of people, and I've never really understood why. Because I do understand there is a bit of goofiness to it, but that's what the show is. That is a key element of the show, the humor, and I think it's done well. It isn't done over, in an over the top way. You could say the little thing with the TV, feed me. It's a little, little bit cringeworthy, but I like the historical setting. This is the only episode I'd say where Tennant's hair is just absolutely, it's in a totally different style. And they tried to have it fitted in for the era, but I don't know. I really like it.
John,
I don't know why.
Gobby, I'm going to pop out the channel for a moment.
Yeah,
pop me in the back room. Thank you.
In the background, mate. There we go. It's all right. It's because John's care has just arrived, so and he had been briefed that he was on a stream, so we'll leave him there. So we'll carry on any case. So yeah, I actually enjoyed this episode because of the history. I thought it was enjoyable for the Queen Elizabeth's coronation, which of course turns out to be even more poignant now than it did before. It was quite interesting. I do love Maureen Lipman as an actress. She's just brilliant at everything she does, and she nailed the character of the Wire so well. I don't know whether you thought the same, Golden Age Geek.
Yeah, I think if it was done by anyone else, it would have come off a bit ridiculous. But the way she does it does have this sort of undertone of being very sinister.
Absolutely, she does. It's that sort of underlying fear, which I thought was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And the concept of the story was interesting, using communications and such. It was. Personally, I like this one, but the thing is, I have a tendency to like sort of historical stories, with a decent sort of historical background to it. I thought it was absolutely enjoyable. And obviously, for a lot of people who were new to watching it, a lot of people may not even have known of the history, of the coronation of the Queen, because obviously by now the Queen's been, well, as she was up until her sad passing, an institution in the United Kingdom. So again, another one is, what did you know of the history of the coronation, or was this like all part of what was going on?
No, I didn't really have I don't really have a clue about it either. And I do agree with you. The historical episodes are always appealing to me. I always find the episodes set in the past to be, more fascinating than the ones perhaps set in the future. Although there have been some that have done it very well. But I do have a tendency to be attracted to the episodes set in the past because, I just have a fondness for that type of era. The architecture, the clothing, the music, everything is just on full display. And it really does give me an appreciation for a time which I had no clue about. And I feel, and this is what Doctor Who is supposed to be. Doctor Who is supposed to have that educational element, but also have enough sci-fi to still make you feel as if you're in another world.
Yeah. And welcome back, John. Everything.
Hi guys. Yes, all just sorted out a few things we need sorting out there.
We were just talking about
I'm enjoying what GoldenagedGeek's been saying there because I've been listening in still, and I really agree. I think it's quite a charming story.
Yeah, it is.
It sets out to charm you.
Yeah, for all
and and it's got a fun denouement. Up the tower with the power crackling off all around him, and the Wire is a great little villain.
Oh, absolutely.
A simple but dramatic concept, and also the fear factor of stealing people's faces, which the show was tapping into. Of course, the faceless ones back in the 60s.
Yes, of course.
The fear of aliens stripping you of your identity, and Mark Gatiss is playing exactly those same strings here.
Yeah,
and production values are good. I just think it's a good looking, well written, sound episode with things to say, especially about freedom and why we fight for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And why that was a very welcome point. It was exactly the freedom to be this objectionable little bastard that you fought for. And I think Russell's getting a bit of his personal messaging in there, and why not? He's quite entitled to.
Well, of course.
So I think it's if you look at it on its own merits, it's a rather a good story.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was
actually. I tell you, the one story it reminds me of is the Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror from season 12.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Which as much as we slag the Chibnall era off, I would say that Tesla's Night of Terror was the closest to a Doctor Who story that season 12 managed. Was certainly one of the better scripts, and was actually very similar to Idiot's Lantern if you think about what it was aiming for and how it was aiming to achieve it. So, lots of crackling electricity and towers at the end. There is a bit of a striking similarity there, in fact. But obviously, Idiot's Lantern is a better season, made in a better story, made in a better era. But in fact, it's the one New Who story it really reminds me of.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So, as I said, should we hit the scores on the doors for this one in particular? So,
I'm gonna go. I'll go for a B.
Go for it, B. Golden Age Geek.
I would say an A. I just find this episode charming.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah. If it works, it works. Yes.
And I'd go for an A- because I enjoyed the history of it. I thought it was really good, and I do like Maureen Lipman as well. So that's what sort of swung it for me.
She was certainly effective in the part. Was she very creepy, very creepy. So well done, Maureen. You wouldn't have thought she'd go from that from reading out the advert for Yellow Pages. No, Sadako has it as an E. I would like to know a bit about why.
Yeah,
she's been outlier in the chat opinion. What is it about this story that doesn't work for Sadako?
Interesting.
Push the smug factor too far.
Yeah.
The tone wasn't working for him. It was rubbing him up the wrong way.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. It's a perfectly valid opinion. Just wasn't a season of a show that Sadako was enjoying very much.
Yeah.
And that's all right. That's how we're allowed to feel these things. Okay, so where should we get to? Oh gosh, we're dashing off down the. We're dashing off to the Impossible Planet.
Oh yes, we're off to the Impossible Planet. Really good. Another story I quite enjoyed. I quite enjoyed this one, I must admit.
Well, I remember Jack's extremely effusive praise and threat to detonate at anybody who dared disagree. So,
Oh, there you
you
go.
know, some people have very strong positive feelings about this story.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's the second two-parter of the series, and the second part, of course, being the Satan Pit. Again, I think the two-parters fit together really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which later seasons struggled with having two-parters that felt very uneven. In
Yeah.
fact, you know, sometimes felt like a completely different story. Season 9 Zygon story, for example.
Yeah.
But this was a good, just really good, strong stuff.
Yeah.
Base Under Siege, classic, but also with brilliant twists. Base Under Siege, underneath a black hole where you shouldn't even be able to be there. And this idea of this impossible planet, very strong. I like that a lot. And of course, it brings in the Ood, who go on to earn their place in the Doctor Who universe. Although maybe it's surprising we haven't seen a full Ood story since Series 4. Why is that? Why haven't the Ood had a bigger impact? You know, why do people talk about Weeping Angels more than the Ood? Because I think the Ood has a great ability to be, you know, benign, but then switch to being dangerous. You know, I think there's a lot that
you're right.
could have been done there.
The Ood are a very underused villain in since then. You're right. They have got that right mix of nice and then not nice. So
well, they were made nice in season 4 and not allowed to be nasty again, I suppose, because there's nobody else who could mind and control an Ood.
Well, no, this is true. This is true.
Although, no, we did see one in series 5 actually, didn't we? Because in the Doctor's Wife.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
There's an Ood there. But that's all we see is the odd one pop up now and again, but they're never the main attraction again. I just so many good things to say about this story. I really enjoyed the episode when it went out. I remember I watched it again straight away.
Yeah.
So I must have really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I must have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was properly excited to see part 2. From the part 1 of Climax. I'm really happy with this story. What about you, Golden Age Geek?
This episode is just absolutely amazing. And when I started to watch the classic series, after I'd seen all of New Who, and I got to the Sensorites episode, I did think, these seem very similar. And it turns out, they are very heavily inspired. And then later on in Series 4, it's told that they come from the same sort of planetary system. So, yeah. So
that region of space, wasn't it? That's quite near the Sphere. Yeah. I haven't been here in a long time. It's something like some sort of dialogue along those lines, isn't it? Put them into contact.
I think the concept for the Ood is very, very, unique. You have them holding, a part of them in their hand, and that's where they sort of speak from. And the messaging was done well in this story. Of course, there was messaging there, and it was done very well. It contributed to the story, and I do like the eeriness.
Always, the only way messaging should ever be in a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Oh. Hello.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
I thought my end had gone because it went deathly quiet.
I thought it was a weird pause. Yeah.
Oh, well,
I just didn't want to say any more because what I do have to praise about this episode comes really into fruition in the second part, and if we're breaking it down episode by episode,
just carry on the flow. It's one story. Yeah, it's one story in 2 parts.
Yeah,
I think what this story does so well is that the Doctor is a very logical person. The Doctor always uses his mind and his intelligence to get himself out of a tricky situation, but this time he's faced with something that isn't totally logical and cannot be explained. It is belief. It is religion. And that totally stumbles the Doctor, and you come out of the episode not really knowing the full answer. And I think that's what any kind of story does best. It should leave you wanting to know more and leading you to be able to make your own conclusions. And it's not just spoon feeding you.
Especially with godlike beings.
Yes, indeed.
You know, because every time the Doctor Who has covered godlike beings, whether it was Azael in the Demons, or who else have we got? Sutek the Destroyer,
Yes, it's indeed.
or the gods of Ragnarok
Yeah,
from Great Show in the Galaxy. You know, they've always been shown to either be aliens who are just misunderstood as gods, or to be just very, very different. And that's why we think they're gods, but we don't really know quite what they are, because that would apply to the gods of Ragnarok. They're more like an elemental force
indeed.
than anything else.
Than anything else,
As are other beings like the Celestial Toymaker, more of an elemental force, although their powers are certainly godlike. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, the Celestial Toymaker is the closest Doctor Who came to Star Trek, I think, in the 60s.
Yeah,
Although I think it predated Star Trek.
yeah.
Think about the timing, or just about the same year. But
Around about
Star Trek
yeah.
certainly wouldn't. Star Trek certainly wouldn't be getting watched in the UK at that time.
No, not at that time. No, it certainly wasn't.
So in confluence of ideas. But here in the Satan pit, obviously the beast is given a very relatable as Satan image.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and of course that's important. The idea that this being has seeded that image all through the cosmos, because it is the original beast, and the idea of being contained behind a black hole, and who would have had the power to do that? And it wasn't the Time Lords, or at least as far as the Doctor knows, it wasn't the Time Lords, or he would have known something about it. But instead, this is knowledge that he's never encountered before.
Yes,
You
indeed.
know, so all of this is taking the audience beyond the comfort zones of the world it knows is comfortable, and then you've got the fantastic decoding the text and the writing getting on your skin business, especially in part one with I mentioned Sutek Gabriel Wolf's fantastic talent.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, just creeping every hair upon the back of your neck in brilliant style.
Yeah.
So I mean, the story's got so much to recommend it. I certainly say it's a must-watch Tennant story.
It's a good one. I must
Yeah,
admit,
I would say it's must-watch.
Yeah.
And I'm once again going to come out overall with a B.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
So Golden Age Geek, what extra comments would you like to make?
I would say it's an A+ for me. I absolutely love this story. I absolutely love the eeriness of it, and you really do feel that the Doctor is absolutely screwed, and that the only way that the Doctor can really get out of this situation is not to use his wits or his intelligence. It is to give into the theme of the episode, belief. He has to believe in Rose, you know, the companion, his TARDIS, because the TARDIS is a sentient being. He has to have faith in those around him. It was a very different side to the Doctor that we usually see, and I think that was absolutely amazing. I would love to see more episodes that do focus on sort of godlike creatures, and you know, we could be seeing that if the rumors are true with the Celestial Toymaker.
Oh yeah, that could very well be what we're about to experience. Yes,
yeah, absolutely. So so Sadako's giving it a C/D. Matthews give it a C. I'd give it A-. I did enjoy this. I did enjoy this story. I really did think this story was really, really good. I really did think it was. And as GoldenagedGeek touched on it, is the fact that this is one of the few stories where you saw the Doctor truly struggling, that he was out of his depth, and he didn't really know what was going on. And it's great to see the Doctor like that. That, you know, he doesn't know literally everything. There are some little chinks in the armor, so I enjoyed it. Lee's give it a C, so there you go.
Yes, Satan in Doctor Who, really? Question mark. Well,
why not?
You know, I mean, well, it's the name, isn't it? Satan, Sados, Denos. You know, it's the idea of an embodiment of evil.
Yeah, that's all it is, really, isn't it?
I mean, I think that does fit. That does fit in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I really didn't like the idea that Rose was now the basis of the Doctor's belief system, demeaning to the character. Oh, you know, I believe in you. I believe in you. I mean,
yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, to say it's demeaning to the character, I think it does speak to the fact that this version of the Doctor is still very much in need of healing.
yeah, absolutely. He's still damaged
You know,
goods.
and I mean that is still going to be very much part of what develops as Tennant's era unfolds.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, I can take the point where, you know, why can't the Doctor be John Pertwee again?
yeah.
You know, and have that supreme moral confidence that he used to have. I can get that. You know,
Yeah,
I can understand where he's coming
again,
from.
you know,
But
different.
different strokes, different era, and
Yeah.
that's what we got. And it was quite welcome on the whole.
Yeah,
So yeah, damn good story. And then perhaps a little bit of a dip. Because,
yeah.
well, you know, some people love
Mm.
this one and some people loathe it because, you know, what else can you have? What else can happen when it's all about love and monsters?
Liver monsters. Oh, well done, well done, sir, for the link. Well done for the link.
I worked to be on that one.
Yeah, you worked on that one.
Cue Mr. Blue Sky because it makes the whole episode worthwhile.
Yeah, great music. A great bit of music. Then the episode appeared. Not my favourite episode. Even though I absolutely love Peter Kay. No, I didn't enjoy this one at all. I really did not like this one. But
I remember that I gave Love and Monsters some praise in our Colin Baker stream.
yes, you did.
When I was appreciating the untrusted narrator of Mind Warp. And, you know, Love and Monsters has got that same aspect to it. Because, of course, the whole point to the story is ultimately but oh god, what's his name? The character. Yeah, he was. Yeah. Oh gosh, brain's completely got blank now. Damn it.
See you all right.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
As 100 people just said bye, Dave.
He's probably thinking, what? What's going on? Oh, the joys.
We're going to put up division part of showing my home these days. You have to work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's way.
Where were we? Love and Monsters. Elliot. Isn't it? Elliot, something close to that, isn't it?
Oh, Elliot. Elton Pope.
Elton yes.
That's it. Yeah. Got there in the end. The old brain cells finally got there.
Deep recall 18 years ago. I had to go through some layers to get that.
Yeah, that was a struggle.
Elton
Pope. Yeah,
and his daring mission to strip down to his boxers and wash his clothes in front of Jackie Tyler. Some would call him a brave man.
Indeed.
Oh, that's a meme now. Bye, Dave.
Yeah, it's going to be Boy Dave now. That's the meme. Yeah,
Dave couldn't cope with just the way we had to say it.
Oh, hello, Target Spider. Welcome.
Oh, hello, Target Spider. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice for you to pop on board.
All right, so let's try and get some focus back on this story.
Yeah,
so,
let's try.
this is a doctorless story. This is a story where the Doctor is like a ghost flitting through the edges.
Yeah,
and it's about the people the Doctor impacts, and I think that's a great hook for a story idea. Actually, you know, and the whole Linda thing and stuff. I mean, actually, talking about spin-offs these days we're talking of a companion spin-off, you know.
Yeah.
But it could be a spin-off about a bunch of conspiracy theorists who hear rumours about the Doctor and then find out it's real and then get sucked into doing that sort of thing, you know. I mean, it could be something like that, couldn't it?
Could be.
But anyway, so I mean that's kind of what we're going for. But of course, other forces also want the Doctor, and they become enmeshed in the machinations of the Absorbaloff.
Yes,
and you know, in quite sinister ways, he sort of breaks up their happiness and destroys their group one by one. And ultimately, then the Zorbaloff is revealed for what it is. But then the Doctor and Rose turn up to deal with the Zorbaloff, and then Elton learns the truth that he's been suppressing all his life, about what happened to his mum.
Yeah.
Which is kind of charming.
Yeah.
And I think there's parts of his story that I definitely don't like. The paving slab blowjob gag.
Yeah. No.
That no.
No.
And the more you look at it, the more no it is.
Yes.
That we shouldn't have blowjob gags.
No,
in
not in Doctor Who. No,
it just came across as tonally wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a funny kind of way to keep going. Who would want to live as a goddamn paving slab?
No, no thanks.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a good thing to me. But
no.
So some strange decisions.
Ugh.
But at the same time, it also had a lot of fun, and it dared to be different. And I think with regard to Zorbaloff being a Blue Peter monster, they just about got away with it.
Just about, yeah.
Very just. Very
no.
just. So this is definitely a Marmite story for fandom.
Yeah.
Most fans, I think, put it down the rough end, not the good end.
No, I agree.
I think I would struggle to give it a B because it just has too many problems. As much as there's stuff in it that I think is actually good, I do find it watchable. I also don't find it terrible. So I think I'm going to have to stick in the middle and go for a C.
Yeah, so
because I've never felt that it's the worst episode ever. I've never felt that it's an E or a D. I enjoyed it when it went out. So it's never been. I've never quite shared the disaster opinion of the story, but it's hard to recommend it at the same time. So I'm going for a C. Now Sadako's come in with an F-. It's totally unacceptable. Problem being with a D. Matt Pounder also with a C.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, what does Golden Age Geek make of it?
Yes.
I'm charged ahead of my comments there.
I'm actually going to come in with a contradicting opinion and say it's probably going to be a high B for me. And now I do think that there are some really bad, moments in this episode, such as the last scene. And I think if they ended the episode with Elton remembering his mother and them two running into the field together, and then the screen goes white, I think it would have been perfect to end it there. It's just that final scene that really leaves a sour taste in your mouth. However, that was not intentional. That was
brilliant. Oh well, there you go.
But I do think a lot of the elements that they explore in this episode is very well, such as the nature of fandom, how you find people who love the same things as you, they all have a fascination with the Doctor, and then because of that, they all just connect as people and they sort of drift away from that original intention. And you also see, like with Jackie Tyler, it really explores the effects that Rose just upping and leaving her has. It's really hard for you to just say goodbye to a loved one and you don't know whether they're dead at any point.
Yeah, but it also shows that Jackie has a spine and she's not as stupid as she makes out.
Yeah.
But there's Jackie's got self-respect, but she's not actually like you might think from her behavior. She's actually more layered than that. And while she might like to enjoy herself, at the same time, there's a deep sense of self-worth there, which I think is always valuable to see in a character. So I thought this story adds to Jackie.
Yeah, I see your point. I just didn't like it. Simple as that. It just didn't sit with me. As you said, the paving slab thing was just like, oh, really? And the thing is, once those things start to happen, I start losing interest, and I just nah. It's. For me personally, I'll give it a D. I really did not enjoy this episode at all. Really,
I think a D is a very understandable score Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm almost there where I'd go for D myself if I didn't just enjoy this story despite its problems.
Well, there you go.
So I mean the idea of looking at the Doctor from the eyes of the fan. I mean I'm obviously Russell was having a bit of a go, having some fun with that, but I don't mind a bit of self mockery, so that worked for me. Okay, well we've summed that up. But before we can get to the season's conclusion, we have to confront, but we fear her.
Fear her. And here we are, 2012 Olympic Games. Nothing like being a bit topical, which was quite interesting because this was in 2006. Yeah, so 6 years before we even had it, which is brilliant.
Well, I mean, it was topical in that we were bidding for it or had won the bid for it or something.
I think we not long won the bid, to be fair, or something like that. I think we definitely.
So it was a bit of a flag wave.
Yeah, just a little bit of a flag wave
for Team GB.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It was a good story. Enjoyed it. So, but then again, the whole of this series I really enjoyed, to be fair, apart from Love and Monsters. So there you go. What's this?
Well, what is it with Fear Her that has meant that it doesn't land with fans on the whole?
No, plodding episodes. Someone's put
is it the cartoon Scribble Monsters idea? Is that a bit too weird to make work? Is it the acting?
Potentially, that could be where it started to grate a bit.
Is it that the dad character isn't quite convincing?
Yeah,
it needed there to be some other aspect to it to really sell it.
Yeah, it just didn't.
And
it didn't.
The Olympic stuff all worked fine. I mean, they recreated the idea of running with a torch for a crowd of people just fine.
Yeah.
But also just a weird story hook, really. You could just cut all that out.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
So the child acting was trouble. It wasn't great. No, it wasn't great.
It was really bad. It was really bad.
I agree. It's the interesting elements in there. But I just think it was too obviously the cheap bump end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was too obviously the boomtown of series 2 for the same reasons in the same season slot.
Yeah.
Where do you dump your weakest episode just before your finale?
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Really. So it could be easily ridden.
Yeah, because certainly Love and Monsters and Fear Her could have been shown either side of each other.
Yeah,
I know it could have been interchanged with the Idiot's Lantern too, for that matter.
Yeah, true.
And it wouldn't have made any particular difference to how the series played out from there. So it was chosen to be put in this slot because it was the one that most needed to have the excitement for next week to keep people watching.
Yeah.
So it was treated as per its worth, I think.
Yeah.
And as per its worth, it's a D- for me. It just doesn't.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work for me, and it's I've
got very little incentive to put myself through the time of watching it again. It doesn't appeal. It doesn't draw me in. Once you've seen it once, you've certainly seen it.
Yeah, it's true. So what do you think, GoldenagedGeek? What did you think of Fear Her?
Yeah, overall, this episode was not executed well. Although on paper, if you put these ideas down, there is a way it could have worked because many writers, create stories and they do all this through bad experiences in their lives and they want to be transported into a different world. And that's what writing is. That's what fiction is. So when you have this girl who has the power to, manipulate reality and create things from her own will because of abuse she has suffered, there's so much you could have done with that. But I feel like, too many elements were focused on, too many different little storylines here and there, and the main focus just wasn't on, you know, it felt like they were trying to lean more into the Olympics and trying to leave their mark on the Olympics for the future rather than actually focusing on the story.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, I do.
Backyard TARDIS, honestly, these couple of episodes were the low point of New Who until the Chibnall era.
Oh, okay.
I'd
Interesting.
raise him one Forest of the Night.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
But overall, a pretty sound observation, you know, which is
Yeah.
reflected in their fandom scores, which have always
Yeah.
been down the arse end, you know. But is Fear Her rated better now than any of the Chibnall episodes? That's a very good question.
There's
Certainly
there.
rated better than a good
There's a
number of them.
question.
Very good number of them, you know, Fugitive of June might just be above it. Maybe Villa Dottie, you know, that'd be about it. So yeah, Rose was not slowed down by the Doctor being grandfather one bit. I think she got chance to get to know that he was actually hundreds of years old by this point. So I suppose, you know, I suppose how would Rose ever handle it if she met Susan? That might blow her mind a bit.
Well, that might just a bit, yeah. That would have been an interesting thing to see. Absolutely.
But anyway, Fear Her failed to impress. Bless it. But that was okay because we were heading straight into a confrontation with an entire army of ghosts.
Army of Ghosts, indeed.
What a fantastic title, you know. I mean, talk about set the stakes.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely.
So Army of Ghosts Doomsday obviously is the big finale time for Series 2. Everything's been leading to this point, including this reveal about this word Torchwood, about what all that means.
Yes, Torchwood is beginning to be.
Because you know, Torchwood was the word for Series 2, after Bad Wolf for Series 1.
Yeah.
You know, the Doctor and Rose come back to Earth and they discover that Jackie's waiting for Grandad to turn up. And at first they think she's going a bit funny in the head. But when they realise that while they've been away, this has been happening for some weeks.
Yes.
So much so that life has adapted around it.
Yep.
And now there's Ghost Watch on the television and they're giving predictions about how heavy the ghosts will be that day.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Doctor knowing damn well that this isn't Grandad Prentice from beyond the grave, then sets out to immediately investigate. And, you know, then swiftly the action takes us to Torchwood HQ, where we discover that they've been opening holes where they shouldn't open them up to exploit the energy of the time rift, which was why Canary Wharf was built there in the first place. And that they are in control of all these ghosts coming back and forth. At the same time, there's something nasty in the basement. And it's big and bronze and ball-shaped. So, you know, the show is setting up enigma after enigma, and especially with Army of Ghosts as an episode. I think it's a brilliant demonstration for a writer for how to continually increase your stakes with no shit given.
Yes.
You know, and no restraint. You know, this episode builds the stakes without any restraint. And you know, and then the double whammy of not only are the ghosts Cybermen, not only have the Cybermen successfully won and already invaded planet Earth with millions of Cybermen. And as the Doctor describes it, it's not an invasion, it's a victory.
Yeah, it's all over. Yeah.
But down in the basement, the sphere opens, and it's only the bloody Daleks.
Daleks! Oh, no!
Now, that is the craziest cliffhanger in Doctor Who history up to this point.
It's very unique, wasn't it? Very unique.
Very much so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, we've never had Daleks and Cybermen together. And now we were being treated to Russell just smashing the toys together in a very pleasing manner. You know, and we like part one just left us going, where is this going to go next week?
Yep.
And
certainly did.
You know, it went It went tremendously is where it went next week, because the story
Oh, good.
continued to sail on from strength to strength, and not everyone likes it. In fact, Miranda's in the chat right now saying, in all honesty, I didn't really like this. Diets and Cybermen shouldn't be a thing. Mind you, they weren't friends.
No.
And as we discovered, 4 million Cybermen have been wiped out by just one Dalek.
One Dalek on his own, yeah, absolutely.
It's just pest control. I mean, the band between the Daleks and the Cybermen is legendary.
Yeah, that's what.
And as a meme in its own right, for good reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, here is the story. Here is the show, absolutely having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really and then just as what causes the problem is also the solution. The answer to all of this is that hole in space and time. And we've got Mickey and Pete come back over from Parallel Earth because they've been following these Cybermen. So we've also got the parallel dimension opens up again in this story. And that, of course, is the tragedy of how are you going to stop this Dr. Rose partnership? How are you going to break it down to last the test of time? And, the answer is to split them up.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and this does that in the most irrevocable. Well, you say irrevocable, it's Doctor Who, but what certainly at the time seemed the most irrevocable way possible. And with sobbing at different ends of a wall, where they're in the same place but a universe apart. I found it somewhat heartbreaking. Yeah, I'm an old softie underneath it all, So it was emotional and it was affecting. So I've just said loads of things about this. Now it's time to find out what GoldenagedGeek made of Army of Ghosts.
Yes,
Doomsday.
absolutely.
Give us your take, mate.
Yeah, this episode had so much going for it, and I really liked it. Again, as we were saying in the last stream, the utilization of the news to show how an alien race has impacted humanity was very well done here. You have a EastEnders clip of Peggy saying, "Get out of my pub," with one of the ghosts, and you have Alan Sugar going, "You're fired." So that nice little utilization, I really like that. And also, this is the first time we get to see this new transformed Mickey. He's no longer running after Rose, trying to impress her. He pulls out his massive gun. He's ready to fight. And we just think he's an absolute badass because of that.
Defender of the Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. A cheer went up when I said goodbye to Rose.
Mickey Smith has grown up.
Yeah.
That's what his story delivers. We've seen Mickey go from a youth to a man.
Yeah, we've actually seen his arc. We've actually seen him.
A lot of people criticised how Mickey was portrayed in terms of the writing, from a 2023 point of view. But I think actually it was really good material at the time, and Noel Clarke made the most of it, and it led to his whole career going from strength to strength. So good on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's Mickey as a character. If you're bothered by representation in Doctor Who, then the credit for breaking ground belongs to Noel Clarke.
Yeah, it does. And
it always will.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, so let's see how this all went. I mean, it worked for me. I really enjoyed this two-part. I watched it again and again and again, which is a mark of success for me. In fact, I found Russell's finales were all very watchable for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of them, and this one was no exception. I enjoyed it greatly. I think it pulled it off. I think it worked. I think it could have been a disaster so easily, but instead it became a triumphant A.
Absolutely. I would give it an A as well. Absolutely. Well done. Brilliant ending. And you, GoldenagedGeek?
Yeah, A for me.
There you go.
It's just damn good stuff, everybody. It's just damn good stuff. Yes.
Best me kiss into the metal one. Well, there's throwing back a bit of age as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
everyone liked New Mickey.
yeah.
It was a winner, and it was just a great resolution, and also, of course, the teaser, which we'll get into consequences of next week, of that
Yes.
emergency temporal shift.
Emergency temporal shift. What?
What?
What? What?
He's legged it through time.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're going to find out more about what happens to Dalek next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that leaves us to tie up this stream with the last story of series 2, the second Christmas special, The Runaway Bride.
The Runaway
So,
Bride.
would you like to kick us off on this one, Golden Age Geek?
This episode, so this is obviously our first introduction to Donna, and I think she's a very different character in this episode than what we see in, for example, Series 4. And this version of Donna, I don't really think is as likable. Now, that's not to say that Donna is supposed to be a very kind-hearted person who's very easygoing. She isn't. But I think the way it was brought over to the audience in this episode wasn't as well presented. I do prefer the version we have of her in Series 4, where it's more sort of sarky humor as opposed to just she absolutely hates everyone. But this episode, I mean, I think it's just absolutely hilarious seeing the Doctor just running around London trying to, get money for taxi and just mundane things like that. That would seem boring, but the humor's very well done.
Briefly, just to say goodbye, Miranda, because
goodbye, Miranda.
She's off in the chat. So thank you for being with us again.
She's running out of a laptop.
Yeah, so she's had to stop. Please continue.
No, that's all I've to say pretty much about it. I do, I think they took the best elements from the Christmas invasion, and then they brought them into this episode and did it very well.
Can't argue with that, can you, really?
I think I have to be honest. I have something more to say about Christmas Invasion. I mean, firstly, yes, you do have the Donna aspect, and I mean it's totally played from comedy. At least to start with here, for what the hell's going on, and the way that Catherine Tate talks to the Doctor is unlike anybody else has talked to him before. And she's not buying into any of his "I'm the last of the Time Lords" bullshit here. She's like, you messed up my life, sort it out, Mars boy. And that the riposte between the two of them, and the Doctor asking her if she's got any money. She, hello, wedding dress, no pockets. I mean, just full of his sarky attitude, which is a really good thing because it shows you that this is a woman who's freaked out. She's just had her brain blown. This is somebody who's not been thinking about space and aliens ever in her life. Right, her horizons are entirely mundane.
Yeah.
And as far as she knows, all that's going on was she was getting married and suddenly all has gone mad. And she's where and with this weird who and what the hell. So, I mean, this is wonderful because it's a way of bringing in people who've never seen the show before. Because they can mirror Donna's reactions and learn about the Doctor as she learns about the Doctor. So it's a very clever writing here, which is obviously looking to build the audience for the coming season from the Christmas slot. And why not? You'd be a fool not to. So all of that works really well. I think what gets overlooked in this story, I think, is just how dark the Doctor becomes.
Yeah.
And I remember I've showed this, I watched this episode with somebody who doesn't normally watch Doctor Who. And they thought he was horrible. They thought he was really nasty.
Interesting.
They thought that he was so angry, he was so aggressive. They were really turned off the character. Off the back of this episode. So, I think in some ways, underneath all the fun, maybe this story goes a bit too far in how the Doctor is prepared to write the Ragnos off.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
And
true.
you know, and how he goes too far, but he has to be saved from himself.
But
And
yeah,
that without Donna in this story, the Doctor is DEAD.
yeah, 100%.
Something which is brilliantly brought to the fore 2 seasons later.
Yeah,
It turned left, where it's made quite clear. So, you know, without Donna Noble, the Doctor would not exist, and that makes this most ordinary woman extraordinary, all in that same time. And of course, we also know, you know, that the impact of meeting the Doctor was going to have on her, and Catherine Tate would be back as Donna a year later.
yeah.
So I think that's missed, actually, and I agree with that observation that my friend made. I agree that the writing is actually, characterization is actually a bit off here. It goes too far.
Ah,
But you don't necessarily spot it if you're not looking at the episode in isolation.
yeah. So,
So
yeah,
I offer that up.
fair enough.
But
I see where you're coming from.
not entirely able to praise this episode. I do think it made some mistakes, but overall it is tremendously successful.
Yeah.
Also, Bernard Cribbins in Doctor Who.
Yes, well, the great late.
You know, which at this time was supposed to be a one-off, but was to become much more. So you know, there was layer upon layer upon layer. No, hang on, I've got myself confused, haven't I? Isn't Bernard Cribbins the next special? I think I may have been mistaken there. I'm ahead one Christmas special. Sorry, everybody. Fallible brain.
No, it's okay. It's okay. At least we remember them like that.
I just remember Kylie Minogue was involved. Oh, it can't be this one. But you know, obviously Bernard Cribbins would be back. Would be coming to play Donna's granddad later.
Yeah.
But for all my criticisms, I love the TARDIS along the motorway sequence. I think that's a real standout from this story. I just think, you know, the reaction of the kids dropping out the back window of their car. You know, I think the lack of a multiple pile-up was a bit unrealistic.
Yeah,
because everybody just carried on driving as if nothing was going on. You know, and there wasn't this big blue box bouncing around the carriageway, smacking into things. So I think the lack of a pilot was unrealistic, but other than that, just tremendous fun. You know, pulling at levers with bits of string and desperately reaching and jumping out of taxis. Just great stuff. Just great stuff.
Yeah,
I'm going to come out. I'm going to come out with a B for Christmas Invasion overall. It's a great bookend to a very successful production slot.
Yeah, I enjoyed
but
it.
Not perfect.
No,
not perfect.
No, not perfect.
But it was going to lead to greater things, and you know, I wouldn't have believed that Catherine Tate would come and do a whole series of Doctor Who a year later at the time this went out. It was very much a one and done. So it just goes to show what good things can lead to.
Yeah, indeed. So Matthews give it a B. Sadako's giving it a D. I'll give it a bit of a thing. I'm going to give it a C plus. And the reason for that is which we'll come on to when we get to the series is I really can't stand Catherine Tate.
Yeah, you can't stand Catherine Tate. Right, that's fair enough.
I struggle. I do struggle because
rubs you up the wrong way.
Rubs you up the wrong way. It's just one of those things. And unfortunately, with Catherine Tate, all I can ever see is the foul-mouthed grandma, and I just can't get that out of my head, and it just never sat well for me. But that's just the way it is.
Well, of course, she's just too good as a foul-mouthed grandma. You can't forget that character, can you? And
no, you know,
if you can't get past it, you're stuck. But I mean, wasn't there a comic relief sketch that Tate and Tennant did.
Yeah, but I did like
where
that.
she was a stroppy schoolgirl character and he was
Yeah.
a supply teacher or something.
Are you a Time Lord? Are you a Time Lord, sir? Are you a Time Lord? Are you a
That's
Time Lord?
right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. He's like, and then she does. To be fair to her, she does a brilliant rendition of Shakespeare, a Rose,
Yes.
and that's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I think she's really, she's very talented. It's just that she just rubs me up the wrong way. It's the way
Well,
it is.
it's the opposite for me. I've always really appreciated Catherine
this is
Tate.
it.
I
You know,
her humour tickles my funny bone spot on. So
Oh,
I've always, for
yeah.
me, it was always totally positive that she was going to be part of it.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. The nanny's just
Yeah.
that's just hilarious. But that was the problem.
Well, let's give Catherine Tate credit. Her performance as Donna in this story totally sold itself to the audience.
Yeah.
And and if the audience hadn't reacted well to her in this story, then there wouldn't have been the interest in bringing her back for season 4. If the Donna character hadn't been a hit here, it wouldn't have made any sense to bring her back. But it was a success. People did like it. It was a fun second Christmas Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And things were only look better and brighter as the show was going to push ahead into its 3rd series.
Yeah.
And that is what we will investigate next week.
Next week, when we come on again and do another fantastic show, which I think this has been another successful one. Nicely chugging on to 2.5 hours, doing wonders.
Are we doing 2.5 hours again? Are we? Gosh, we are, aren't we?
Yeah, 2 hours 20. But that's fine because
that's about what we expect with the amount of material to get through with this.
Yeah, this is what we're doing
before we close up, I just want to go to Golden Age Geek. If you've got any final words, we'd like to sum up Series 2 as a whole. Anything you particularly like to say about being a fan of this era of the show?
Well, just to finish up on the Runaway Bride.
Yes.
A common thing that goes overlooked because it's such an essential part of the show is that this is actually the first episode in New Who when the planet Gallifrey was mentioned by name.
Oh yes, of course.
So for me, who had no clue watching it for the first time around, years and years ago, that was pretty revealing to me.
A major reveal, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it would be, yeah.
But overall, to sum up Series 2, Tennant is, one of my favorite Doctors. He is, easily, and you can see why he is so beloved by the population. He does have that charm about him. He does have that sort of young, dashing action hero vibe, and I think that's something that a lot of people gravitate towards. I mean, the overarching sort of theme of this series with the love story between the Doctor and companion, I don't personally agree with. I don't think that's how the Doctor-companion relationship should be. However, I do get what Russell was going for, where he was trying to show how out of touch the Doctor is with humanity because he can never live amongst them because he is not like them. He's going to live on and live many different lives while humanity just withers in front of him. So I do see what he was trying to go for. And I mean, I don't know if Russell himself agrees with the notion of a Doctor-companion relationship because it was teased many times in this series, such as in The Girl in the Fireplace and then with Rose. But ultimately, every one of those instances resulted in tragedy because, as I say, it can't happen because they come from 2 different worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would like it if the show had stuck to that line in the sand. And that we hadn't had a production in the last 4 years, but was trying desperately to blur it and rub it out. And I mean, it's been a really bad time for that, like for the fandom on this issue. I think that the decision that Series 2 made to go for the unrequited relationship made a lot of sense in terms of what made sense to hook the audience in for the coming year. But it was a cul-de-sac that the show then had to try to reverse back out of. And I don't think it entirely got it right until Capaldi Series 10. And that only because by Bill being a very declaredly lesbian character, the idea of any kind of romantic relationship between elderly doctor, well, the older doctor, and the young female companion was knocked on the head, and the show was able to have a season that at least wasn't about any kind of speculation about who the Doctor might or might not fancy.
Yeah.
Whereas because of the consequences of what was done in series 2, every companion afterwards got measured by that stick in some way. And then with Martha, it's the she does the Doctor, but he doesn't even notice her thing.
Yeah.
And then that's been criticised years later. Bream Aggerman was done down by her writing. No, she really wasn't, but that's how we want to see it. And then with the Matt Smith era, and then you had the Karen, you had the Amy Pond openly trying to openly seduce the Doctor. And then Rory thing kind of resolved that a bit. And then, of course, it's Clara. But again, with Matt Smith in series 7, it was like, will they, won't they? But that was interrupted by the change to Capaldi, which knocked that on the head somewhat.
Yeah, it
and
did.
then you had to give Clara a boyfriend. And then how Danny Pink got treated is a whole different story, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
It was series 10, I think, was the one series that managed to escape the worst of that, and that was only because it was established that Bill was in love with a puddle.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah,
it bedeviled New Who.
it did.
This question, and I think that is the consequence of opening a door that really perhaps should never have been opened.
No, I think that door should have been left closed.
Because every time someone tries to pull at the door, the threat is that the show is going to unravel.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you did do this, you would make the show unravel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's simply impossible to have a relationship which should be respected. Between a being like the Doctor and a human being. It's just for a being like that to want to involve themselves with the emotions of a human in that way.
Yeah.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah. Agreed.
And the show only tries to sell it when the show is forgetting what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see how this goes in the new era, because the show will have to confront this again, and it's Russell coming back to confront it. What exactly will be the relationship between Ruby and Nakuti's Doctor?
Yeah.
How will that? We don't know anything about it yet. How will that all pan out?
Yeah,
will people be really surprised, based on taking an offhand comment from Neil Patrick Harris, if Nakuti's Doctor doesn't turn out to be the gayest Doctor Who ever, and in fact there is a sexual frisson between the Doctor and his female companion again?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'd also point out that Nakuti Gatwa himself is not out of the closet.
No, exactly.
He may act in a flamboyant gay way,
but he's not.
But in no way is he confirmed to actually be gay himself.
No.
And although he's played gay, we simply don't know what his orientation actually is. No. So we don't know what the future is going to be. But if it's the case that the new Doctor's traveling around with a female companion, but there's no danger of a relationship between them because the Doctor's oogling all the men instead, I don't know, that probably won't work out so well.
No, I don't think.
But I don't think that's what Russell T Davies is planning to do. But none of us know for sure. We'll just have to watch it when the time comes, won't we? But this is all a legacy of the choices that Series 2 made.
Yeah.
And while it was a very popular series at the time, and indeed it drove your wife mad at the time, the show did pay a price. So that's an interesting discussion to have.
Absolutely.
Right, I think that's about it for me. I'm talked out.
I'm all done.
Yeah.
I'm all done. It's been another absolutely brilliant stream again.
Anything else to say, Golden Age Geek?
No, I think everything I think has been explained very clearly.
We've covered it. We've covered our bases. Well, that's another
Yeah.
successful job then, boys.
Yes, absolutely.
And thank you once again, chat, because not only could we not do it without you, it just really wouldn't be anything much just like fun. So
exactly.
we love you all, and I hope you all get join us next week for New Who Series 3.
Indeed. And with that, thanks everybody for watching, and she'll look forward to catching you all next week. See you later.
Goodbye, everybody.